think everything's ready. So with that, I shall begin. Welcome, one and all, to the Opus Magnum Weeklies 2022 results live stream. This is our 11th puzzle. We've already made it up to 11. Wow. Stabilized gold from from the alchemist who brought you reactive gold. We have stabilized gold. Glad to actually be getting a Grimmy puzzle. This is a very interesting challenge. Well thought out metrics, because we were looking at metrics ourselves for this puzzle, and outside of the two that were proposed, there were like no interesting ones.
Yeah, so many things on this are rather trivial, just because the puzzle's simple.
Yeah, it really is purely the metrics that complicate this puzzle. But it is an excuse to finally have a stabilized gold puzzle, which I'm very happy about. It got quite a few interests this week. So our metrics, before I continue, the metrics were trig, which is trackless rate, with the instruction secondary, cost primary. Trackless rate seemed to trip up quite a few people. Then there was lexicographical cycles, which is a brand new, fresh metric. That was interesting, because you had to do all of your theorization from the ground up, because no one's done any sort of lexicographical thing before in this game. So that is the metric we will start with. It'll be interesting going through the scores themselves and actually describing like what's happening with the scores.
I very much look forward to and then this solve is better because the fourth output is done 2 cycles earlier.
It's going to be a fair amount of that, I'm not going to lie. Okay. So from the looks of things, I think we can start at 22nd place. With a submitter who I think might be new, River the White Pale, with Lexicowartical.
Oh, that's a great.
With a primary score of 16 with a loop of 1221. So, a lot of care seems to be taken here to make sure the Quicksilver is being grabbed once every 2 here with the giant track loops. So lexicographical cycles, for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, is basically it measures the amount of cycles that it takes to drop the first output, followed by the amount of cycles it takes to drop the second, followed by the amount it takes to drop the third, and so on and so forth through to forever.
If any individual output could be dropped earlier without a change to the other output timings, then that's an improvement to your solution.
Well, even if there is a change to the other output timings, it's just like, if you can, the next one needs to be dropped as soon as possible, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. In cycles, you typically think, oh, I just need to get the 6th output out as fast as possible. The other 5 have as much freedom as I need. But in Lex cycles, each one needs to individually be out as fast as it's possible to have that output out.
Yeah. So this solution, for example, because I think all the others get the first one in optimally, this is the only one that doesn't. So we can talk about the actual challenges of the metric. So you're aiming to get this first one out as fast as possible. The quickest way for the first one is, in fact, to project straight from lead to gold. So I think the reason the first output can be dropped on cycle 12 if you're fast enough. Here it drops on 16. You can see we're on the 12th cycle now, which means it should be like over the output. But because the Quicksilver are being like translated across projectors once every cycle, instead of just being straight on the first projector, dropped immediately, that's why this doesn't hit that 12th cycle on the first one.
Yeah, it seems like having more projectors was an idea that this person stuck to, whether or not it was the best idea. Because you can do everything on a single projector with just 2 arms pulling Quicksilver onto it. And with their decision to make it a conveyor belt, it actually makes the Quicksilvers take longer to get to where they're going.
But yeah, not using the purifier does simplify things a lot, because that's where this puzzle kind of becomes tricksy for lexicographical cycles, because for optimal approaches you will need a purifier as well as a projector. Then the rate gets a little funky, and then you're wondering how far do I need to purify and how far do I need to project per product being dropped. So that's where the complications arise. Moving on though to 21st place, submitting at the last minute is Realliance. With a solution,
this is the buzzer beater.
Yeah. With a solution we can comfortably describe as simple.
Yeah, this is like a slightly slower refined gold. There is a way to just clone a solution to refined gold at 62, which would be 12 bracket 10. And this is very similar to that, only it has a pause on the arms so that they can do one loop instead of multiple.
So yeah, I guess to compare it to the last solution, which we saw have this conveyor belt which dragged the Quicksilver across multiple projectors, there is, and anyone who's like a veteran with Opus Magnum and cycle optimizing will recognize this arm Quicksilver projector setup that just lets you grab, and you're grabbing it once every 2 cycles, which it does not get faster than that.
I will say that this is optimized for the number of characters it takes to write a flex cycle score. There is no way to get fewer than 4 characters. Bracket 12 bracket.
What if you replaced them all with wheel arms and you don't need to rotate clockwise, Biggie?
I'm confused what you mean by character. Like, I'm talking characters to specify the score itself.
I thought you meant characters like letters. Like, because it only uses, like, grab, rotate, drop, rotate.
Oh, I see what you would mean.
Yeah, the other characters. Whoops. Misclick. Moving on. We actually do have another 12. Bracket 12, I should say. This one, username void.
Ooh, new solution 1.
Yeah. That's how you know it's high effort, when it has the title New Solution 1.
It's interesting. This one gets away with starting the grab on the arm that gets the input on the second cycle, which allows its loop to not block the 12 cycle loop with the other arm.
Yeah, you can see arm 2's putting a Quicksilver on 1 cycle earlier, and you can get away with 1 cycle earlier. You can't get away with 2 cycles, unfortunately. But yeah.
Yeah, if the Quicksilver moves at the same time as the metal to the other end, that Quicksilver is going to crash into the old one. So you get 1 cycle.
That was a bit of a point of annoyance when I was playtesting this myself. kind of wishing that moving the Quicksilver on at the same time as your metal didn't crash, but that doesn't, I guess, make sense, logically speaking. Moving on though, we have Logo Rojo, which I believe is a new name, with a score of 12 and a loop of 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 15.
Oh, it's so close to being the purified gold algorithm, but it has an extra loop at the end.
Hit by the reset.
Funnily enough, it's not a reset instruction, but they reset anyway. I think Loho Rojo was just trying to figure out how to solve the LCM issues, but then just went, screw it, I'll just manually reset them.
Yeah, the issues with 60, but it at least does loop, so it's better than any solution that will crash after 6 outputs.
And they didn't bow to the reset instruction, and for that, you have my respect.
Fully agree.
Alright. So as you can see here, from what we've seen for the last two solutions, this does drop the second product quicker. Because there's no delay on the purification, on the projection at all here, it's just straight on. The arms, yeah. No delay. So that's where this improves over the bracket 12 solutions. Moving on though. In 18th place we have Topo Mouse. With a much more wild score of 12, 10, 6, 8, 8, 6, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 2. And it doesn't loop.
It actually eventually crashes.
It will crash.
That's an interesting life cycles. It does use the purifier. We're finally purifying some gold or purifying some metals. They don't necessarily purify the gold.
So you can see it crashes. This one that gets dropped here, that actually does count in the solution parser, which I found mildly interesting, but you do hear the dropping clack before it crashes, so I guess that makes it official.
It's interesting, it looks like it gets 12, 10, 6 just because it can. And then it does an odd one out, where it's sending 4 Quicksilver, or sending 3 Quicksilver to turn iron to gold, and then 1 over to its odd one out. This is a very strange distribution of labor.
So compared to the previous solve, which had, so I guess compared to the previous solve, this solution drops the third product 4 cycles quicker. So I guess, yeah,
this is
that's
a
what's
score now
highlighted.
that can be only achieved with purification. You cannot get lower than 12, 10, 10 with without purification.
Yeah, I guess if we focus a bit, because you can see the first two are projected straight from lead to gold, but here, this third one's coming through, and it's already iron, meaning you only need 3 Quicksilver. So that's where those 4 cycles are saved, because you don't need as much Quicksilver. That's why you need the Purifier to hope to get optimal Lex cycles. Which is a little funny, because you usually think of the Purification as a high latency glyph. So it's a touch ironic that you need it to cut latency.
But you also think of the inputs as useful. When you're getting 12, 10, 10, you're just not using all that input.
Yeah, that is true though, yeah, because those 12, 10, 10s, you don't grab lead once every 2 cycles, so that's just a lot of lead you're not using. Alright. Moving on though, at 17th place, we have Mad Master. With a score of 12 and a loop of 8, 8, 10. So it is the second one here that gets dropped 2 cycles quicker, which supersedes the third one.
Ooh, nice.
Alright, so this
Mad
is...
Master in chat as Chump Change Boy.
So, this one drops the second product as quick as possible. You can't get faster than 12.8 for the first 2. So it is after that we're looking at saving.
So the idea behind 12.8 is that your first projection is from lead to gold, and your second projection is from tin to gold. And you get that tin from purifying.
And this one has a pretty basic loop thereafter, so yeah, that was where most of the focus here was, I think, given to the first 2.
Yeah, he even says in chat, 12-8 is the min for the first two. Well, that was all I was going for.
Funnily enough, that is the exact attitude that I'm getting from this solve without even looking at chat. But no, fair play, Mad Master. You did scrounge top 20. You did beat a fair few people actually, so nicely done on that. We will continue to move on though. At 16th place we have Jason with 12 and a steady loop of 8.
How can I be naive when I'm aware I'm wrong? I said naively. That's hilarious. Derjaja was in chat earlier saying, I predict second to last, and I'm apparently not correct. Oh wow, this has iron waste. Does it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is iron waste. It's not. It's like once every while, but it does have iron waste. So compared with Mad Masters, this drops the 4th product 2 cycles quicker. In case anyone's wondering.
I'm curious if this one is creating its first output using full purification or full projection, because I don't see the ARM that does that. Oh no, ARM 7 has to do that.
ARM 7.
ARM 7 is there to give your first output a bit of a boost, because otherwise I think you would have to be slower than 12. This is a nice solution.
It's kind of funny
it's also
that
pretty good at the area secondary. It's nice and compacted.
it's kind of funny that like after it resets, it maintains the 8 cycle loop. Like even when ARM 7 grabs, it is able to maintain the 8 cycle loop, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is.
Like you would assume looking at the score that it falls into like a super simple steady state, but it's actually still not that simple.
Yeah, my imagination was that ARM 7 somehow D6, like it grabs before it goes back down to input, so it never succeeds in grabbing again.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is great tech if you want something to work once and still functionally.
Yeah, we will be seeing that tech later on. I guess that's not too much of a spoiler for those who had a fair look at like graphical cycles.
Yeah, this solution and probably every single one after it will be special casing the first and maybe second output.
Alright, I actually don't think the next solve is a special case.
Well, I was
coming up next in 15th place is Alienate Me with a looping score of 12,88686.
Oh, wow, wait. That's all in brackets?
All in brackets.
Oh, that's hilarious and very pretty.
It's 40 arms.
It's a track loop around a track loop. One of which is just there to make sure the salt makes it to the disposal.
So, alright, so it looks like ARM 40 grabs the, alright, so one of the salts are grabbed by ARM 36 at the beginning here. And then ARM 40 has to, yeah, okay. I was wondering how ARM 40 swings over the disposal hex without crashing.
Casually just, this solution has an ARM 40.
It does hurt me a bit that you put a reset instruction on ARM 1. Like here,
Yeah,
if it just drops, it
The two rotates do nothing.
It doesn't need to rotate at all, but it rotates. That hurts me a bit.
This is an incredible design. I'm interested to see what they did to come up with 1288-686, or if this was just a forward first, I'll make whatever I can make.
Yeah, it's funny. Lexicographical cycles. I found it was somewhat conducive to forward first. Just see what cycles I can drop stuff on. I did have to go back later and actually do proper theorization, but it was a good launching pad to actually just think about it forward first, and then be like, okay, where's the steady state? There's the steady state, instead of actually number crunching.
I mean, so before I made any solutions, I had 170 lines in a text document trying to develop a nice cohesive theory that would prove that I was on the right track and set me up for a good layout. I take a slightly different approach to this puzzle than to TI puzzles.
Slightly different. No, I tend to launch myself into forward first thinking for most metrics, and this was no exception, and it did work out at the end of the day. Alright. With that, we can move on to 14th place. With a score of 12-8 and a loop of 866, we have Witch Push.
So we're winning on the 5th output versus Alienate Me now.
Yup. Alright, zoom in a bit actually.
This looks like a tight enough layout that Witch Push was very focused on secondaries and might have thought that their legacy was so many.
It is very, by this point, we're getting close to min primary. So I wonder if Witch Push thought they had min primary.
He said, you don't tighten it up this much if you still have primary to give. This is a really tight layout.
Alright, so just visually, practically speaking, where would the improvement be? So, because you get the first two out as quickly as possible. Venus's third one, it's set up to it's set up to purify into iron, but then it doesn't. And so this third one here needs an extra quicksilver, as opposed to it could have just been purified and it would have been iron. You didn't need the extra quicksilver here. You could have just dropped on that cycle. Or that cycle.
Yeah, Mora's calling out in chat. The third output wants iron and 3 quicksilver. And actually this differs from min only on the 3rd, 6th, 9th, etc. outputs, which could each be 2 cycles faster.
Yeah, and you can even just see visually how you could in theory be able to get this an iron instead of a tin here that needs to be projected here, because like the purifier is set up here. It's just Witch Push. I think the problem Witch Push was running into was that the quicksilver was coming out too fast, and so needed and then like at that point they're like, oh no, we need that tin on because otherwise my quicksilver crashes. You do get you can purify the iron and then project the iron before bonding. That prevents you from crashing. If you try to bond first, you're too slow. There is also another way that you can prevent the crash by storing a quicksilver. So you have the two. That takes space. Yeah, that does. It takes an extra hex, and it kind of hurts. But the idea would be to have an extra arm here, and as these two arms are grabbing quicksilver, the one that would crash is grabbed by arm 20 and just stored for a while until it is safe to go back on. And these two arms never stop pulling, so you're never actually slowing down the pulling of quicksilver. That's true. That makes total sense. It does only cost you 1 hex. I thought it would cost you 2 or something more, 1 arm and storage toggle. You do still use an extra hex though. It does still kind of hurt. Yeah, I got to the point where every hex was kind of oh, is this worth it? And I felt really good about what I finished. Well, I felt really good one before I got done. And then I got one more hex and felt, oh. Alright. Moving on. So this is we're already quite close to min primary because it's already not obvious how this differs from the min primary. But moving on to 13th place, we have Mr. Puzzle with a score of 12.8 and a loop of 7.85.
So I will quickly mention, I believe the reason why I didn't quite reach min, and I think it's because I prioritized. I should have grabbed on the lead, and then every second lead is grab, debond, put over purifier, drop. I'm losing time on the regrab, and I think that's what gets me in the end.
The iron is actually simultaneously limiting to the quicksilver on the iron to gold output that comes first. So your third output is losing its latency by lead.
Yeah, so and you can see that the problem manifests at the end here, because you can see ARM17 needs to like store like we were saying. I was describing the storage method. This is that storage method, but because everything's coming out just like a cycle too late, there's no like safe cycle for 17 to drop until this one, where it is the final quicksilver that projects. And the storage atom, you don't want it to be the final one that projects, because you lose exactly one cycle like that. And that cycle is lost earlier, as Mr. Puzzle mentioned, on the regrab.
The regrab way over there by arm 6 and the one under it.
Yeah, arm 5 and 6. It's very unfortunate, actually, that such a subtle issue compounds into a full cycle being lost.
And it also stinks because, like, when I first set this up, I was like, all right, I'll have all this machinery, and then I'll hit the steady state rate system, and I'll have the one-time setup stuff get out of the way, and I might move in some new like constant quicksilver feeders or something, and it's like, oh, I didn't have to do a whole bunch of work. Like 12 and the other arm, just do their job once, and then I have 17 do an extra grab, move forward, and like it all just worked. Smoothly transitions into the steady state.
Yeah, it's cool that you have this on a 20 cycle tape loop. My steady state took a 60 cycle tape loop to get around. But instructions aren't part of the metric. Morricone is saying the solve has a good Critelli, and I think the Critelli is not visible. Where is it?
Oops. Where?
I don't think it has a good Critelli.
It's pretty hidden or something, I bet.
Alright, so it's there. It's under the projector. Oh. Was it meant to be somewhere else?
I don't know.
Oh.
What did Maura mean when she said that?
I lost it. Rejectelli.
There, I improved the Critelli, people. Now you can actually
tinkering on stream.
You're supposed to tinker on stream.
Playing out fantasies in my head where I exclusively tinker with people's Critelli if they're a Critelli rejected, just to dunk on the Critelli rejectors.
I dunk on Maura when her solution comes up.
Alright, I'll save it for Maura. Alright, moving on though. We have a new submitter. So welcome to the Weeklies, Ubiraten, with a rather complicated score of 12 and a loop of 8686688884. So
12, 8, 6, 8, 6, 6. The first 6 outputs are optimal on this solution, and then it gets...
It is
no, the
the
first
8,
7 outputs are optimal.
It's the 8th output that's not optimal.
Imagine being penalized for an output that the game thinks you've won before it drops.
You see, over the when we were sorting out, like, sussing out the metrics for this puzzle. We actually had the discussion, do we want the lexicographical cycles to just be until product 6, or is it infinite? And initially I was actually pushing for product 6, but then we found a way to do infinite, and it ended up not being quite as jank as we feared, so we went with it. But it means we have this situation where poor Uberafton's 8th product is what stops this from being optimal. Because the first 7 are all perfect. It's 12, 8, 6, 8, 6, 6, 8. But the 8th one can be dropped on 6 instead of 8, so if we fast forward to the 8th. Alright, so there's the 7th one. This one will be fine. It's this next one. See, iron's being grabbed here. So it's not actually obvious at all why that's not optimal, because you can save 2 cycles there, but
there's Quicksilver that hasn't been used yet.
yeah, you
and
can
Quicksilver kind of coming out, so you can tell it's not. Every single output in an optimal solve uses up its last Quicksilver right before it drops the output.
I think it might be this. No, I actually don't know. So this is the final lead that gets pulled for that iron.
Biggie, that statement is false. On some of the lead-limited outputs, you can have a Quicksilver spare.
The way I wrote it down, at least, if you do anything to leave a Quicksilver spare, it might not penalize you immediately, but it will penalize you within 3 outputs. But my theory might...
as long as you use that spare immediately afterwards.
Okay, that makes sense.
So what if it was just tin here, and... Right, so I think... let's look at the... The 8th one, because it's iron, I think it can be tin, and you get all the Quicksilver used. Is that...
Yeah, this might be a case of what I was writing down in my theory, which I think is still correct, where doing something wrong can penalize you 3 outputs in the future instead of immediately.
But yeah, I think that you're correct that was supposed to be a tin, because it's an iron, and the iron gets output as fast as an iron could be, but because there are 2 spare Quicksilver, that means that by using tin instead, you would have gotten it out 2 cycles faster.
Oh, I see. Sorry, it's not the 8th one that was wrong, it's the 7th one. The 7th one needed to be tin. See, this is 7th one here is iron, and this one it
yeah,
won't.
That's exactly what Not Great is saying.
Right. Oh, okay then. But yeah, by having that 7th one be iron instead of tin, you end up with all this like excess Quicksilver that you can't put to good use, such that even if you did use tin and use all the Quicksilver, you're losing cycles because you could have made the previous one 10 and not lost cycles. So I guess that's... yeah. Sorry, we haven't actually said many nice things about this solve, even though it's a genuinely really good solve. Just kind of owing to the fact that
we know it's not min, we're focusing on why isn't it min and what is it doing wrong?
Yeah. We're not a community of perfectionists. What are you talking about?
Zorflex, you're one of the most perfectionist people in the community.
Oh, I wish that wasn't true. But honestly, like, yeah, this like there was a lot of theorizing that went into this, and you've done really well. I know Not Great said in the Discord channel that he predicted over half of everyone to get Min. It ended up being exactly half of everyone to get Min.
Nice. So now it's an area race.
So now it is an area race. So, moving on, we actually do start with Not Great at 12-8 and a loop of 6-8-6.
Well, at the very least, my theory was accurate in that this is the min lexicals.
This is, in fact, Min Lexicals.
So it probably won't matter, but I just realized during the stream that arm 6, there at the top, I could have saved one area if I just made it grab at the end of its tape loop instead of moving it outward to dodge to avoid messing things up.
Right.
It's one area, it probably won't matter, but...
Right, yeah,
really
here it can just,
to...
like, stay there and grab, because...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Puzzle pointing out in chat that this solve has a lower area than his was at 68. So had Mr. Puzzle gotten Min with that exact layout, it would have been more area and been the final of the Mins.
Oh yeah, I guess it's also worth pointing out, poor Uberatan, if he got Min primary, he would have still came in 12th. I do happen to know that there is a solve that Uberatan submitted that we'll be showing later that did absolutely not bother trying for any sort of perfectionism. Curious to look at that one later. So, Not Great.
Yeah.
While I got you, what was your process for Lex Cycles?
The main thing was just, so first of all, figure out what the optimal was for the first, for rate and for the first 4 outputs. And once I had figured that out, it was just kind of like, okay, try and make something reasonably compact that wouldn't collide with itself, and make sure that I have a way to store the Quicksilver so that I have time to maneuver things around as needed. Yeah, it was very much just like put things to try and make them all fit. And try and have a lot of different ways to do every action so that something will be available when I need it.
Just like preemptively try to make everything flexible, because you know you're gonna need it, because you need conditional stuff and it gets complicated.
Pretty much, yep.
One interesting thing that I caught pretty early on in my planning is that because Lexi has to be at min rate, and min rate will make 7 purifications per 20 cycles, but doing it in a single purifier would mean 7 takes 21 cycles, you never have to feel guilty about placing the second purifier. It is mandatory.
What are you talking about? I have 1 purifier and I'm at min.
You have 2 purifiers.
You have 2 purifiers.
Purifier. Sorry, purifier. I thought you said that. I thought you said projector. Yes, purifier. Yes.
But yeah, because this thing only activates once every 3, and you need it to activate 7 times, and 7 times 3 is 21, but you only have 20 cycles, so you just barely need the second one.
Yeah. So, some funny things is the one grab that Arm 6 does then gets replaced by Arm 4 much later on. And some of the early grabs I have being grabbed by 2 different arms for the second run through the tape loop, those being arms 7 and 8, in that they will grab one, move it to the projector, and then bring it down.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, this is fairly crazy, Quicksilver storage. This is super cool though.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised that this was the largest area of everyone at Min. I was expecting to be closer to middle of the pack of Min, but oh well. That just means that some people got really good, efficient solves.
All right, let's go down the list, see if we can have a look at a few of them. In 10th place, just barely cracking the top 10 at 63 area is Caliuresis. Okay, so this is Min primary, so no more tricks. This is the period that we're working with. So it is kind of funny how you need to do the I think we were talking about conditional stuff earlier, and it's the first two in particular. And I don't know how you guys approached it, but when I approached it, so first of all, I did like forward first stuff just to see like what cycles I could drop stuff at. And then, like, doing that over a long enough period is what clued me in that you need a 6-8-6 loop. But that the first two are 12 and 8. So, the way I approached it was to just make something that gets that 6-8-6 loop constantly, but then do the first two with, like, conditional grabs, and then nothing else.
Yeah, you can see ARM 16 is doing the conditionals for the second output, I believe.
And ARM 14 grabs.
ARM 14 is doing for the first output.
And it's actually ARM 15 here gives this to ARM 16. So yeah, it's also ARM 15, and ARM 15 just never resets.
Gotcha. So there's like a network of one-time use ARMs?
Yeah.
They do a reasonably good job tucking into the rest of the solution, but yeah, when it's a measurement of compactness, there's a lot of that one-time use ARMs planning is where the areas will be saved.
So I guess to answer the question for this, and I guess also not great solve as to why this didn't do better on the area secondary, I think it purely just comes down to the fact that this, the complicated logic, requires, like, you can see a fair few track loops around here, and just, like, you know, a fair few conditional arms which do take up a, you know, good number of extra hexes. That it comes down to that. The geometry gets very dicey if you, because I found kind of, the part where you do kind of need to plan ahead is the geometry itself. Just like, how are you debonding, where are you debonding, where are you disposing, where are you purifying, how can you get, and how do you manage the swing to get that lead straight onto the projector really quickly for the first one, and how difficult is that going to be?
So Fiesta's mentioning in chat that there's actually a way to view it as like a 14 and then 668, where the loop is just 668, but by advancing the first output a little bit extra, it becomes a 12-8, 686, but that requires only one special case for the first output and not special case for the subsequent outputs.
Right, okay. I was wondering about this, because this is something I did not catch when I was playtesting that I think helps, that you only need to special case the first one instead of the first two. That's going to be very good tech. I think because we are going to see that later. I think some of the top solves manage this.
That's something my solve doesn't do, and I didn't see as possible in my theory that it would require lead, tin, iron, which doesn't loot as like what the metal is before you start projecting. So I'm missing something. I'm curious to see what it looks like.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll just keep going until we run into a solve that does this. So I think there is more than one from
my
memory.
solve did that, didn't it? The only difference is the timing of the Quicksilver a little bit, but it does basically that.
Oh, okay. I probably didn't notice because your Quicksilver storage is so complicated.
That's totally fair.
I just see of Quicksilver, I'm like, I am not gonna know which one's special cased. Alright, with that, we will... Alright, so actually, before I continue, who do people think are in the top 3?
I'm gonna go Fiesta Iron.
It's not an easy metric to gauge who's gonna be at the pointy end.
Yeah, I would say I'm good. My solve definitely has a good area, but Fiesta's the person to have pointed out something that's headier than what I had realized. So maybe they have the best solve.
Alright. Moving on to 9th place. We take a drop down 9 hexes down to 54 with Bambi. Dyslexic Cycles. Nice.
That's a great name.
Bambi's a bit of a plus enthusiast. I don't know if you can tell.
Those are some track loops. Oh wow, they're actually simultaneously using a track loop on the grab on lead and the grab on salt.
Right, yeah. This one purely for disposal, I think. Although sometimes it misses its grab, so its what arm grabs? Yeah, 9 and 10 are responsible for grabbing the ones that aren't disposed. Alright, so the first one's special case, arm 14. Yeah, you see the salt.
There are 3 projectors.
There are 3 projectors. So yeah, we have to think about hex usage in the sense that, yeah, there are 3 projectors taking up 6 hexes. So by the looks of it, I don't see special casing for this tin, for this salt that gets onto the, attached to the second product.
Yeah, I'm gonna look to see whether the 3rd and 4th are both iron and the 5th is tin again.
Alright, so the
Yeah,
second one is
the
tin. Third one's definitely iron. 4th one is also iron. And the 5th one is tin.
So yeah, my theory had it like, it was claiming that you would get penalized if you went lead, tin, iron, instead of lead, tin, iron, tin. But you don't get penalized, and for some reason I missed that.
But then that re-raises the... I guess that... Does that re-raise the question of why Ubiraten got penalized for doing that?
I think Not Great understood it better than I did. I think I had a false conception. 200 lines of text and you're wrong. Like, I think I might have neglected the fact that you just used the Quicksilver you're still holding on to.
Yeah, it just in the really simple way of saying it is if you're outputting and you have 2 Quicksilvers in storage of some sort, then you've got a problem, which is what they had. You can store up to 1 Quicksilver at an output, and you're fine. But if you're sometimes fine. But if you have 2, then it's impossible for that to be optimal.
Yeah, it's because it's interesting because oh, I shouldn't fast forward like that. So there's the second. Third one is yes. Sorry, I lost count. What was my point here? Alright, so this fourth one being alright, yeah. So this fourth one, this is the iron for the fourth output, which under the normal route would be a 10. Making it an iron means you do need fewer projections. You are grabbing extra quicksilver, but that extra quicksilver gets thrown onto the tin immediately. So by doing it iron tin instead of tin iron, that is a thing you can get away with.
So I guess, yeah, there's freedom. Marcon just spells it out nicely. Outputs 4 and 5, 7 and 8, 10 and 11, etc. Both have freedom that one of them is 10 and 4 quicksilver, the other is iron and 3 quicksilver, but you can pick which is which. But if you pick 10 and 4 quicksilver for the first one, then you have the issue of your special casing the second output too. Meanwhile, if you pick iron and 3 quicksilver for the first one, then you have the issue of quicksilver storage.
Right.
You have to pick between 2 special case or quicksilver storage.
Right, so it was either... Right, so the reason UB Rafton got punished is that he didn't go iron tin or tin iron, he went iron.
Yes.
Which, yeah. And you're never going to be able to... And that's too much purification, I think, and you got, like, excess quicksilver that... Like, yeah, for that particular cycle, the purification kind of kills you if you go iron and iron. Right, so that's the reason.
I'm never going to lexicographically recover from this.
Oh my god. Biggie in shambles.
So this is probably much too complicated to do as an actual thing, but would it be possible to replace the far right lead grabbing tape loop with just a 3 large tape loop and then have a 1 piston to grab the lead and pull it down?
I do see what you mean. Don't know.
But
Looks like it could be an option.
Specs98 in the chat is saying that a lot of the people who are using a track loop, that's simpler or more convenient than what Specs did. So Spec at least has a different way of loading the first pure.
Well, that's a pretty good segue, because in 8th place is Specs98, who is
I didn't mean.
who is also 150 for area, but is cheaper.
Speck of the devil, and they shall appear.
Spec using a multi-arm, interestingly. Alright, so Spec T uses 2 debonders. I think that's what Spec referred to in the use of a multi-arm.
And it is necessary to use 2 debonders if you're going to use a multi-arm.
Definitely, yeah. Alright, so which algorithm does this one use? Alright, so 3rd and 4th are both iron, and the 5th one is tin. Right, so this uses the
Quicksilver storage required approach.
Yeah.
And you see ARM 8 is responsible for the Quicksilver storage. It's just there on its track chilling.
Notably, by being able to do projection and then bonding the salt afterwards, after some of the projection, it's able to get away with only needing to store 1 Quicksilver.
It's kind of funny because my solve it uses the other route, but I need to store Quicksilver anyway, just because I don't get my metals onto the projector fast enough.
Yep.
That was one
I'm
hex.
proud to say that my Quicksilver is 2 arms and 1 projector, and they never stop doing what they're doing.
That's the dream. Oh well.
But there are 2 different one-use cases outputs.
This is a very different looking approach. It's kind of funny, most of the arms aren't hex arms. Oh, sorry, pistons.
Yeah, it's cheaper. It's also still got a lot of equilibrium. Spec calls out in chat. Like, there are lots of secondary optimizations that they didn't have the time.
That's fair. You can see the potential here, like, yeah, with those equilibrium glyphs to try and bunch it up together a bit more. That was nicely done. Alright, moving on to 7th place. We take another drop in secondary down to 48 with Spiritual Shampoo.
Spiritual Shampoo called out the massive drop they got from 63 to 54 too. This is now smaller than Witch Push's solve that I called out as like, this is compact, I think it's min.
Alright, so what's the algorithm for this one? Third one is iron. Fourth one's tin, so this is the, this is the 2 conditional...
Biggie approach.
Yeah, approach. We need better names for these approaches.
You can tell though, it also manages to have arms 4 and 5 just sit there pumping the Quicksilver hole all the time. And it does what I think Not Great asked about in Bambi's solve, where there's a triangle track that takes care of the second lead and a 2-stage process for the odd lead.
Not exactly the same, but yeah, basically.
Oh, okay. I had interpreted it to mean this, and so I couldn't think of what it was otherwise.
Specifically, the one that I was saying was to get the far lead using a piston to just move from one side to the other, which is what my solve did. In that, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. This is basically the same thing, just more compact because of the different geometry allowing it. Whereas on that solve, you would not have the space to do this correctly.
So according to Spiritual Shampoo, this one pretends the second metal is iron, which leads to 1 special case Quicksilver.
1 special case Quicksilver. Right, so here it pretends. And that's arm 2. Yeah, and that's arm 2's job done. Right, okay. Right, so instead of special casing the salt, by pretending it's an iron, you can special case the Quicksilver instead. That's pretty clever. Yeah, cool. That's not a thing I thought you could do. That was a good find. Well done. Alright. With that, we will move on to myself. Non-scoring at 47.
Nice title.
I was actually pushing for CA to be the second metric, but everyone else agreed Lex Cycles was better. Which, it's a brand new metric, I don't blame anyone at all. So yeah.
Put it into people's lexicon.
Lexicon.
I like how Arm 8 has like a little wiggle dodge.
I forgot which one's arm 8. Right.
Ball transport.
Yeah, I don't know how I ended up having the time for that. My solve is like... I don't know. Mine didn't find like any of the elegant algorithm stuff. I ended up just straight up special casing the salt for the second product. How did I end up doing it? It's arm 16 that's special cases, and an arm 5 moves up and it has a delayed start. So, like, essentially my entire algorithm doesn't kick in until the third one, and the first two are just pure special casing. And that's, yeah. Sorry?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, all these other approaches, and they sound so cool. Mine's just like, oh yeah, I just special case both of the first two. It did feel clunky. I was a little strapped for time, and still reckon I could cut a couple of area if I like really went full perfectionist and stared at it for a while. But so the initial design of this was initially designed to work at 40 area, because the metric I was initially considering before Lex Cycles came up was cycles with a budget 40 area.
Oh my goodness, that's cruel.
Honestly, I think Lex Cycles I think was the better choice at the end of the day, because you get all the, yeah, I don't know, the flexibility of the approaches was a surprising and interesting thing, and this gives off CA vibes anyway, so it didn't matter. Also, I guess worth noting is that you can see my I have this one loop here, and there is a plus here at the end, so it goes in the other direction. So usually it goes up here, but it goes in the other direction for this one because that's a latency I can afford to lose, and I do that purely to avoid LCM issues.
Yeah, that makes sense. Get yourself a 20 loop.
So I'm just staring at like all of these minuses, thinking if I can just turn one of these into a plus and get away with it, I don't have to program it out 3 times.
Well, you're like 10% of the way there. As soon as they're all pluses, you have met the expectation of the community.
I have, but then it would be worse. So why would I want to do that?
Also, I'm just curious how this and a few of the solves before it have the debonder right next to the bonder.
Oh,
Which doesn't...
So that was... that was that's probably the part of the solution I'm most proud of, having these two 2D bonders both right next to the region. Ignore that first one, because it's arm 5 here and 7 here that are on disposal, and they kind of synchronize their swings with the movement of the region,
yeah,
which avoids really the crash. Cool. I was always committed to this idea because I always liked the start, and I think that's why mine gets away with being at 47 despite having some kind of clunky conditionals. I am able to get away with like an otherwise nice setup. It's the 686 loop in particular that I'm quite proud of, and from an area perspective, I guess. Because yeah, there's a lot of like wiggling and weird stuff that I do to avoid eating extra hexes. Last thing I guess worth pointing out is that ARM16's first grabs, so it conditionally grabs this salt. It'll do a minus and it will never do a plus, which is perfect. But yeah, after it outputs, it does like this conditional bounce out so that it helps out for the steady state instead of me needing another piston arm because this didn't already have enough piston arms.
Panic called out a previous solve, I think it was Specs, saying conditional piston arm being reused in the steady state.
Oh, yeah, no, I think Spec 98 was doing that as well. But yeah, I was proud of it because I usually suck at that kind of conditional steady state stuff. Okay.
I tried to do that, but the fact that I special cased the first two made it not work.
Yeah, it's also like geometry and how the special casing is pulled off, because ARM16 just happens to be resting in a good position to help with the steady state. But yeah, interesting challenge though. We'll move on though to 6th place, also at 47 area, but cheaper than mine, probably because they didn't have a piston fetish or something like that. Team Fiesta Land.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, my prediction is now once again that I'm first.
Ooh.
This is really clean looking, though.
Yeah, yeah. It's the special casing here that's super clean. Also, it kind of hurts that ARM16 eats 2 hexes with its Quicksilver storage here instead of 1. Because, like, if you could imagine, like, the piston extending out to length 4, then it could, like, do that. Actually, no, wait, that still eats 2 area. Never mind, I'm stupid.
Yeah, this has 2 projectors, which is one of the penalties of the 5th output is the one that uses tin approach. But they still also have to store a Quicksilver, which I find interesting, because it's like you're taking the penalty twice in 2 different forms.
Right, so it's
once with a second projector and once with an arm that pulls Quicksilver off of that projector anyway.
Right, so it's an interesting trade-off, which I think is kind of demonstrated by the fact that this had a secondary tie with MySolve, because the conditionals here are a lot more elegant, but it's the steady state itself that's like, it eats a few extra hexes, whereas mine had like the steady state had pretty much no hex wastage, but it was the conditionals that I needed to eat a few extra hexes. So it's an interesting trade-off there. It's also a bit of a geometry thing. As I am wont to say a lot of times when I'm analyzing solves.
I like how ARM9 is able to deliver both salt to disposal and salt to bottom.
Yeah, ARM9's got a super nice placement here. And it's a good Critelli. Quality Critelli.
Yeah, Mora calls that well, but ARM9 looks like a sum arm.
It does, doesn't it? There's a lot of I was getting some vibes from
access points in the middle of a field of usefulness.
I was getting some vibes from Spec 98s as well.
True, with how cheap it was.
Putting my nitpicking hat on. I do wonder about this track loop, whether, like, because the track loop, it does all the work here. I wonder if there was, like, a way that, oh, actually, maybe there isn't, because it grabs every 2. I was thinking, yeah. I was thinking of, like, actually, it wouldn't save any hexes, never mind.
Yeah,
if you did, like, a diamond
track,
track,
add a piston, but that's
yeah, like a piston that retracts here, but then I think you still need a diamond track because it grabs every 2. It's not like the triangle track trick I was doing, because that only grabbed once every 4. This needs to grab once every 2.
You
So
can
no,
get away
actually,
with a single diamond track doing the whole job. And I haven't seen anyone so far use it. They've all been on 5 or 6 lane trackers. The diamond track is sufficient. It just forces the location of your input lead, your debonder, and the 2 hexes of purifier to make a diamond of themselves, which can be awkward.
Yeah, that's why I was such a big fan of my own solve until I had to actually program out the first 2 products.
Yeah, fair.
Alright, we will move on though. Coming in 5th place, moving down to 46 area, we have John John.
Nicely done. They were talking about how they arrived in the community after binging my blog, which, thank you, that's awesome, thank you so much. They arrived pretty strong at the game.
Biggie blog good. Alright, so this is the diamond track thing you were talking about, Biggie.
Exactly, yeah. Well, it isn't though, because it adds piston 6. You can do it without piston 6.
Right, plus piston 6. Alright, so what algorithm is this using? Alright, so the third one's an iron. The fourth one is also iron, so... Oh, wait.
So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
using the...
Wait, did I get that wrong? I think I got that wrong. So I don't see any Quicksilver storage at all. Alright, the fourth one's 10, sorry. Yeah, fourth one's 10. I missed the first projection. Alright. So this special case is the first two. How does it special case the second one?
So there's the piston on the track triangle that is responsible for putting tin on the projector. I think it shortens afterwards to never be useful again. It's the piston on the triangle track.
So my question is, why doesn't the salt here need to be special cased?
The salt can be very patient. If it doesn't get in the way to put it on the bonder a few cycles early, then you just do that.
Right.
I was interested to hear people talking about salt special casing because you just have patient salt. The bonder isn't in the way of any other things if you put it in a good place.
That's probably part of the reason why, yeah, cause I'm still thinking about my own layout, sorry, but yeah, because I do need to special case salt because I have very impatient salt because I can't just leave it on the bonder because I do a bunch of weird wiggling to get stuff in and out of the way. I'll shut up about my own salt though, sorry.
Yeah, I'm looking at the disposal on this one, and the fact that the disposal is at the angle it is with respect to input and debonder means that there can't be an arm where arm 11 is doing anything useful with disposal, which forces it to be two arms both coming from the left, which means that there's a lot more work being done. And then arm 7 drops down on its track, which in chat John is saying the disposal had to be special case because the looping wouldn't work without it.
Right, yeah.
Arm 17's initial action forces Arm 7 to take an extra hex.
Right, yeah, because Arm 7 needs to be, yeah. So Arm 17 can't quite get there quick enough. Right, okay. It's kind of funny how delicate some of these algorithms are, and how there are so many parts of it that can just go wrong and force you to add extra hex usage. It's just so many different points.
At this point, we can probably start counting arms and viewing the number of arms as a proxy for area. Because this has no equilibriums, and it has no extra glyphs. It's just arms and tracks taking up the tiles.
That's so funny. But you're right. Alright, so we'll keep 18 arms in mind. And with that, we will move on to 4th place. We have Brother Mojo, who also came in at 46 area, but is cheaper. Also, nice that you got the cycle count to match the area count.
Yeah, true, 46 is the cycle count of them in like sea salt. Now this has the debonding track loop that I was thinking about.
Right, yeah. That's
Just
the
the diamond, and that kills the projector, kills the purifier perfect.
It's the stab water cycles trick.
Yeah, but you only use it for every other input, because each one either has 3 or 2 steps, but the track loop lets you tweak 3 or 2 interchangeably.
Right, okay. That's pretty subtle. That's nice.
This is stuck in my head ever since Rolani used it to win Amalgamated Gold Ring in the tournament that I listed.
Oh, okay. Was this an Amalgamated Gold Ring trick?
It's where I learned it, and then I've never forgotten it since. This one has the simplest possible quicksand.
Just thinking, could arms 8 and 9 be replaced by a single hex arm?
At the cost of 2 area.
Oh right, yeah, that would add area, huh?
Yeah.
The one area, but yeah, that would cost one area. Huh?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that anyway. Interesting, the top left here is surprisingly spacious. Like, everything here is just, like, absolutely no fat on it whatsoever. But there is, you know, a couple of Equilibriums, a Critelli, spare Hex. That's kind of funny, like how lax the area usage is around the disposal glyph. That's not a criticism, it's just like, you got it down to 46 and you didn't need to do anything for the disposal. In fact, you got Arm 7 handling both disposal and the other cell block that comes out.
Yeah, the challenge of using this track loop to load the purifier is that the disposal forces itself to be kind of out of the way. I know because I did exactly that.
Okay. We enter top 3 territory. In third place...
Jason calls out in chat, it's all teams for the rest of it.
No, it's not.
It's not? There's not a Team 6 for Morse Tech?
I don't remember... No. I don't actually... They have a solve, but it's not for, like, cycles.
Okay.
In third place, we have... at 44 area, Team Gamora Faina Kokondadiri Thingamabob. That is the official name.
Gecko, Moraconda, and Fyandir, making a team that takes more characters than their names smashed together.
Greater than the sum of their parts. Isn't that poetic?
Mora claims in chat this solve is entirely Fyandir's, which makes sense to me because Fyandir had an absolutely incredible showing on radio receivers, which has a remarkably similar style.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised to see this do so well either.
With exactly 44 area from the same as that one.
So this is clever. They're using the output of the purifier as storage for the Quicksilver.
They are.
They're also using the output as storage for the Quicksilver. They have 2 different pistons, 16 and 17, in charge of storing.
There's a lot of Quicksilver storage here, but the Quicksilver storage, it's not, like, it's not, because this is using the, I think this is using the normal algorithm, it's just the Quicksilver storage is purely to save hexes.
This has 17 arms?
Yes. But yeah, no Equilibriums, very little, like, excess track hexes at all. Except 1, 2, 3 hexes of, like, unused track at any given point. Very simple conditional at the beginning, and other than that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the first output conditional. This is the trick that Yesto was the one to teach me. My theory unfairly penalized this approach without realizing that it was actually identical to the right approach.
Oh yeah, I totally didn't pick up on that either. Yeah, I'm impressed that that was picked up on, like...
And when you throw 30 brilliant people at it instead of 1, there will be more things to 30 see.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I'm super impressed by all this Quicksilver being stored and put to good use exactly when it needs to be put to good use.
Oh wow, look at, Shampoo calls out in chat. Arm 8 does a length 3 salt swing through dropped lead purifying into tin.
Oh, it does! Oh, that's so clutch.
That is just possible, and that's amazing.
Whoa, that's a nice swing. And it does it. Oh, it does it like 4 it does it twice in 4 cycles as well. That's so cool. There is a hell of a lot to like about this solve. Well done. Well done, team. Go team.
Team Gamora 5 for Nakonda thing and try thinking about.
Go team. That brings us to the top 2 though. In second place, we do take a secondary drop down to 41 hexes. It is Team 42.
Oh, we didn't get it. All right, nice. Well, I had my first solution, which was submitted as new solution 1, was min-lex cycles at 43 area.
Whoa.
So
That's
I
a
only
hell of a new
shaved,
solution 1.
I only shaved 2 area after that point.
I guess it helped. I guess the theorizing really helps with that kind of thing.
It helped me figure out a layout, but it did commit me to an approach that I thought was the only one. Still, this is really compact for what it's trying to do.
You hit a very good layout.
I was like, when I got down to 42, I was like, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. And then I noticed, but now the track can be over here and save an area. And so I got 41 immediately after getting 43 to 42.
Oh.
Hence the title, Dishonorable Undershoot.
Oh, and you would have came second anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Pain.
Yeah, so for this solution, there is the diamond track that does the perfect purification loading. The projection is never bothered. It's just 2 arms handling projection. There's one arm 11, that both pushes and pulls tin, so it gets a full work cycle while doing 2 different jobs that are both necessary at a steady state.
That's this arm. Oh, I like what you did with arm 13. Oh, that's super nice. So for this second product, which needs to be special cased, you grab the tin, move it over the purifier here, so that like it'll work on the steady state as well, and it grabs down here.
Yes, I forgot that was what actually got me from 43 to 41, was arm 13 special case, becoming a steady state working piston.
That's a super nice steady state.
Yeah, I think this 13 arms was... I was looking at the 17s and the 18s being like, you have to drop a bunch of arms. Mine has 13. Who beat me? I don't even know the names that are ahead. It's the Ebenov, I guess.
No, it is not Ebenov. Alright,
And coming back, a surprise reveal in Steven!
Whoa. What a flex that would be if it was Steven. So, it actually warms my heart that this person won, because over the course of the weeklies, this person, I swear to God, must have come second like 3 or 4 times. So I am super happy to finally be able to give them the W. It's Cuckoo 52.
Oh, nice! Nicely done, Cuckoo 52.
They cut 1 hex to get it to a flat 40, which would have, yeah, funnily enough, that was the budget cycles number I landed on.
I was saying it was cruel because I was on 41 being like, you would just tell me I have to cut an area or I can't even submit it? But yeah, this is beautiful. It's doing, I mean, so much of it looks like mine.
It
but
does
its purifier
actually.
layout is different.
Alright, so arm 2 grabs the first one. The second one is special cased. I think it's arm 1 that special case is this second one here.
It just puts the tin where the iron needs to be, doesn't it?
Just like
Yeah,
yours
and
did.
1-4 takes care of it as if it were iron.
In fact, I do want to go back to Team 42 just to see where, like, where even the hint of the extra hex is.
Also, I'll say this is Team 42, but Genius has been struggling with health issues from the heat wave all week and hasn't actually opened the game, so this was neat.
Aw. Oh, get better, Genius 42. You're a good egg.
He is a good egg.
Hmm.
So I have more track in my solution.
I think it is. I think it comes down to the hexes of track that you needed. Alright, back to Cuckoo 52. He actually uses more arms than you did. You had 13, he has 14, but...
Only one arm is on track.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm counting the loop as like a given.
Well, the way I was thinking about it earlier was, yours had like 4 hexes of like track that didn't have an arm on it. His only has 2.
Yeah, exactly. Well
Yeah.
done. Well done. Also, it has the bonder right next to the debonder despite using the track loop that I used. So I found those two hard to put together for a reason that Cuckoo avoided, with the purifiers being where you put them. Yeah, this is awesome. This makes me look at my solve and then think, oh, this person is just found my approach, but better.
Oh, you know what this does? Oh, you know what? That's super cheeky. Arm 7 takes advantage of the fact that the area is counted at product 6. It does a swing here. Uses a 41st hex.
Oh,
but
that's
it's not
so
counted.
Cool. So the prediction that or not even a prediction, just the musing that I posted a few minutes before the deadline. How many of the Lex C cycles will matter that it's counted only at 6 output? It's this one. It's this one. Absolutely perfect Critelli.
Because, yeah, and you need to do that, because you would think, you know, you could maybe think about like having arm 7 retract and do a dummy grab, but there is no point where it can do a dummy grab.
It
So
can't
if
do a
you-
dummy grab shortened next to the disposal?
Sorry?
It can't do a dummy grab by retracting and grabbing next to disposal?
You mean like this hex?
When stream delay catches up and I see what you're referring to. Yeah, exactly.
7 has 2 grabs, right?
It does other grabs that are like part of the steady state. It's this first one here where it special cases this salt, and it just, like, the salt sits there forever. Alright, so
Okay, Cuckoo said that the area could be avoided. They forgot dummy grab tech. But as is, it made the perfect cheeky Fratelli.
Alright, so you could do something like this, and, like, yeah, that would be a dummy grab. And I think that would still work. Alright, so if I play it, I think that would still work, but... Okay, so, does its dummy grab in here. Right, okay. So, that was a flex. So if it mattered, he could have avoided that hex.
But being the only person to get 40 is awesome. Well done, Cuckoo. That's well-deserved win.
Massive points. Yeah. Very well deserved. It was kind of funny, because initially I was kind of pushing for CA, and then I was making my solve. And because my solve, I was initially trying to cap myself to 40 to get that budget cycles thing. And I was able to get it down to 46 cycles, at 40 area. At min like C for the first 6, but then I couldn't steady state it. And then only after building that did I realize that 46 is not actually theory min. And okay. Because there is
it's only
in
min
fact...
if you're forcing Lex C, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's only min if you're forcing Lex C, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, actual min, for anyone wondering, is 44 cycles, which is something no one picked up until I'm like, oh, wait a second.
That's hilarious. I never bothered to calculate it. As soon as I stopped thinking about Lex C and started thinking about TI, I only ever thought about you.
If you really wanted to, you could have done latency and then cycles, and that would have had the same. But I think Lexi is a much more interesting metric.
I do like Lexi better, yeah. Alright. That was really cool. Congratulations to Cuckoo52 and to everyone who submitted. Alright, let's boot up the other one. Alright, so this is the metric for which I am completely blind. Oh, I don't actually know where to start.
Yeah, so I'm curious what the approaches look like and when the switch flips. Because as we're going from last to first, it's going to start out with people who got min rate, or probably it might even start out with people who got 12R. But if once we get to people who got the 20/3R, you'll have those who did it with a 20 cycle loop before you have those who did it with a 4 cycle loop. When does that switch flip to the people who are doing it on a 4 loop?
Alright, so interestingly, I kind of... Alright, so before we actually look at the scoring solves, because unfortunately the irrational rate solve, I don't think ended up actually being scoring. So I'll download that one manually. Sorry?
They intentionally recreated it trackless.
They did. I think I've kind of... My solution parser, I kind of janked it a bit, so... It won't be a problem for the solutions that we go through, but... We'll have to figure out what I did wrong later. Alright, let's have a look at it first, before I... Alright, here is the irrational rate.
Oh yeah, it's very similar to the hair product one.
Our website straight up didn't give this solution a rate, because it just like... It just like cried at the thought of having to compute irrational rate.
I believe that Panic's rate calculator will check to see, is it pulling in atoms from over 100 tiles away from the machinery and trying to use them in conditions. And if so, it will say, this is a poisoned rate solution and you cannot validly calculate its rate.
Yeah, because it'll do that long before it converges, because it never, converges on a steady state.
There from being convergence, yeah. I really like the way that they're doing the entire hair product algorithm on the Quicksilver and then just patiently chucking them into gold, which is how it managed to have some cycle gaps of like 420, as we were seeing when they shared their Lexi value for this.
Yeah, first one drops on, I think it's like 696. Yeah.
I was wondering, like, how did they manage to have there be so many different gaps between output counts? But it's because in addition to the Fibonacci counter, it requires 5 outputs going into a specific input before it drops.
So I guess, Biggie, you know better than anyone else how this achieves, how this counts to achieve an irrational rate. So I don't know much about. I couldn't tell you much about how this works.
My answer is to go read the Biggie blog post called "Using Opus Magnum Computers Irrational." I can try to give a quick description of like, oh, it will replace 1s with 2s and 2s with 2 1s. But that's only clear if you know exactly what those words mean, which is not obvious. Yeah, thanks, Panic, for putting the link in chat. I really gotta get this to be a like biggieblog.com short links, because even though biggieblog.com redirects, all of the individual posts are the BTM QVA thing, which is just an auto-generated site name. But you see, despite being good at this game, I am somewhat computer illiterate.
I refuse to believe that.
You should. I work with computers. I just don't like any web dev.
Okay, let me actually reboot the parser up. Okay, I think we start. Alright, I think we start here with Jason. Alright, so we do have a rate of 8. 8 rate, very nice.
Great rate, mate, no hate.
Great rate. Alienate.
So this uses the Quicksilver at optimum speed, but it uses the lead only half the speed. It's taking 2 leads per 8 cycles so that it can make 1 tin.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's a pretty short tape loop and leads to a straightforward algorithm at 8R. But yeah, unfortunately, you aren't taking all the inputs, so you aren't getting optimal rate. Still, if you're just trying to make something that makes sense, this is a great solution.
Definitely. Alright. Alright, coming up next, we move down to 19th place for jank reasons, but it is Topo Mouse.
Jank reasons?
Yeah, yeah.
Were
I'll
there
get to it once we get to
the
it.
AR?
I'll explain the jank when we hit min primary. It's entirely my fault.
Okay. Topo Mouse had a very unique Lex cycles and also a very unique rate solve with a 7. It's the same odd one out style. You can see that it's putting 3 of them onto the output that is coming from the main pipeline, and then 1 of them onto an output from a second pipeline, but that output requires 5 projections to get output, so it takes so long. Also means that it's projecting iron, it's purifying tin while projecting lead, which is the big no-no of rate purification.
Yeah, I wonder what got Topo Mouse to use this algorithm. It is nice though, I do like the old one out special casing. So, what did you guys think about the trackless restriction on this rate puzzle?
It would have been cooler, in my opinion, to have the secondary on rate be tracks plus instructions instead of having trackless rate be the primary.
But then I don't get to make trigonometry jokes.
Yeah, I know. My first solve was named ionometry for this metric.
Alright, next up.
If no one does what my ionometry solve does, please view it as jokies.
Alright, so in 18th place, we have Cuckoo52, and you'll see where the jank problem is, because my solution parser is telling me it's a rate of 7, but it's not a rate of 7. It's actually the min primary of 6 2/3. I don't know why it's saying 7, but that's led to jank where solutions that shouldn't be counted are being counted. But I think from here on out, everyone's solve is a trig solve. So from here on out, just pretend the 7 reads 6 2/3, and we'll be good.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, so 7 is just what your parser is going to be writing.
Yeah.
Integer problems.
I think it's an integer problem. I think.
6 validly asking, what happened to 20 and 21? What happened to those rings?
A collision.
This isn't actually a rate solve at all.
Wait, what? The website gave this solution a rate.
That's the collision that depends upon your
oh my god.
collision tech. It's swinging a giant stick, so the stick will determine how many checks happen. Yeah, jank on jank. Cuckoo already knew there was a weird collision, but only in some versions of the game.
Well,
Because now that stick is big enough, it can tell that those two swings are supposed to collide.
well, that was a great pickup, Cuckoo52. But yeah, so this doesn't actually collide, but it will on mine. So we get to watch it up to a certain point.
It's to prevent your computer from combusting from the stick of waste.
Yeah, it is. But
Also, it looks like this has a for loop at heart, but then can't be a for loop because of the by arm.
that kills the length of the tape loop, unfortunately.
The hex arms moving tin to the projector are also not capable to do a for loop. It's weird. This thing probably is never going to be a for loop unless it finds a new solution for making the imbalance of metals.
Yeah, so from what I understand, the length of the tape loop was a very non-trivial problem for this puzzle, for those trying to get a good instruction count.
Cuckoo says to rotate the whole thing clockwise.
As you do.
Oh, that just fits better on the screen, I think.
Oh, I was kind of hoping for more Django. Now it doesn't crash.
Well, I'm using old Opus Magnum, so maybe it does do that. That would be cool. Oh! it crashes earlier.
With only 4 outputs made. Weird.
Oh, it's because I'm using pre-patch, so this is like my version of Opus Magnum has overclocking.
Just rotate it 3.6 million times then.
So if I did this, I'm not actually going to do that a million times. Don't worry. Don't worry.
But yeah, so the main challenge in rate is that of every 5 tin that you make,
Okay, I'm just gonna.
4 of them become iron, and 1 of them remains as tin. And doing that can either require more instructions or absurd conditionals.
Right, yeah. Oh my god. I apologize to the jank, but I am also at the same time slightly amused by it. Alright, we will move on though. And as mentioned, from here on out, it's a secondary race, so we can just go ahead and pretend the 7 is a 6 2/3 forever. In 17th place, is alienate me at 221 instructions. We'll zoom out for this one. Who was it that's saying that Trig this week was giving Steven energy? Was that you, Biggie?
I said it, but I think Spiritual Shampoo also... No, 6 also remarked on it. 6 is.
Oh, it was 6, okay.
But I think 6 was trying to look up every single thing that they could find that was RI or RIS to determine like what kind of text they should be thinking about.
Right, so it is a bit funny though, because of how on the surface similar this is to Lex Cycles in that many of the best lexical graphical cycles solved were at min rate already. So we know what min rate is like. It's 2 iron projects for every tin that projects up. But with the seemingly benign but actually totally not benign stipulation that you're not allowed track and instructions is the secondary.
Try to do all of that, but get rid of your instructions.
Yep.
So I see a few people in chat talking about, yeah, we tried a for loop, and a few people in chat thinking like, people did a for loop? So that's the thing, in my opinion. There's going to be a switch that flips at some point, and the tape loop is suddenly going to be 4 forever.
The length of the tape loop is going to be very important. Which is kind of nice, because I don't get to say that all too often for these rate metric, even on instruction secondaries. I don't remember tape loop period being such an important factor. Not for many cycles, not for many puzzles that I can think of.
Yeah, so the normal tape loop lengths would be 20 for being able to make 3 outputs. 10 is 1.5 outputs, and then, as mentioned, 4 for some ridiculous number of outputs.
Yeah, John calls it a 3/5 T solution when you take a for loop.
Yeah, okay. 3/5 T, that's not easy, and you don't get tracks to help out either, so yeah, it gets weird fast.
Yeah, it would have been a lot easier to hit 4 if it was tracks plus arms, or tracks plus instructions.
If you need something to happen every 5 loops, none of the multi-arms work. They all fail for you getting something to do every 5, even the bi-arm.
Right, yeah, and that's the trick, because I guess that's the sticking point, because with TI, so much of it can be dependent on like you getting to pick the length of your like loop by picking different types of multi-arms, whether you wanted to grab every loop or every second or third or sixth. And you can mess around with that a bit by throwing in different numbers of rotations a bit. But here, no, you have to stick to a 3/5 T loop, and none of the multi-arms are going to get you that in an elegant way at all.
By the way, TI for this puzzle is 3.
Oh yeah. We have showcases, I think, that cover the amusing triviality of TI for this puzzle. Anyway, with that, we will move on to 16th place. Coming in at the last minute was Moore's Technologies, with 188 instructions.
So 6, who's the ringleader of Moore's Technologies, was talking about all of the different brainy ideas that they were coming up with over the course of it, and it manifested into a for loop that is really big.
So this is a for loop. I guess. I actually had to zoom out all the way. My zoom mod does not go out further than this. I hope you can see what's happening.
So yeah, there's a condition of once it has built 3 iron, or once it has built 2 iron, it steals a tin that was coming off of that hex arm. So there's, yeah, it's a hex arm compiling a bunch of tin and then bonding to it with 2 iron. But that leaves you with an ugly brick.
If you told me
so then there's a lot of Steven energy to finish that.
If you told me Steven made this, I wouldn't have even blinked.
I don't know. I mean, it all fits on one screen.
It's also trackless, which I think Steven really prefers having arms on tracks do the things that the pistons are doing. Because pistons have one job, and that job is to pivot.
Right, I guess a notable exception. Yeah.
One of the weird idiosyncrasies of Steven Tech is that pistons never piston. You're not allowed.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there's a lot of pistons pistoning here. That's not very Steven-like. I guess I have to take it back then, when I said I believe this was a Steven solve. Alright, well this is one way to get it.
The conveyor is so low.
I do like how the fact that it's a conveyor means that it won't just crash my computer after 5 or 6 products. Yeah, period 4, but 49 arms. So bit of a dilemma, yeah, because you can reduce the period, but like, at what cost? Do you go full Steven, or do you not need to go full Steven? Maybe there's a way to do it in less than 49 arms, we shall see. Moving on to 15th place, we go down to 177 instructions, random guessed. Sorry. I fat-fingered. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, not great.
You spoiled also a 60 instruction drop.
I did. I didn't even know that drop was coming.
Alright, you're going in blind!
Oh, I totally fat-fingered that one. Alright, very surprisingly simple.
Yeah, it gets to use 20 instructions to prevent there being a conditional anywhere.
Yeah, and there's only like 11 arms.
Yeah, this is a really compact and pretty solution because it's got those buffers of 6 of salt and becoming 6 of the metal.
I like this a lot. Yeah, I like this a lot. This is very clean for what it is. Can't really criticize it. I mean, obviously you could do things that, like looking at lowering the length of the tape loop, but you know, that's like boring perfectionist stuff. Well, I won't say boring, but
that way lies madness.
It is madness. Alright, well, unfortunately I did kind of spoil it, but we do take a bit of a nosedive in instruction count. Next up, coming in 14th place is Not Great. Alright. Not Great. How did you go with Trig?
First figure out my period. Like I mentioned, the possibilities were either 20, 10, or 4. 4 looked like it would be really painful to do. So I was just like, I don't feel like doing that. So I decided to go for 10 because it's half the size of 20. I built a nice, very efficient TI thing for loading the tin. And then I started having geometry problems, and I just kind of did bad things with pistons to get around that.
It's weird to see arms doing more than one thing before they drop, and that's the 10 period magic.
Yeah.
It does give you some nice flexibility, though, yeah. Because as we saw with, like, Random Guests, like, if you can imagine something like what Random Guest did, but, like, at period 10, which, that does sound incredibly hard, but, you know, that is a way to drop the instruction count pretty quickly.
Yeah, so you can see, I don't remember which number it is, but there on the output, I just test to see, is it gold yet? If so, put it in. If not, then put it back for the next 2. And yeah, I spent like an extra 2 hours or so dropping from 120 down to 112, and I guess those were totally useless.
I'm
but
sorry.
I mean, I knew I wasn't going to win or anything because I still had to keep all of those horrible pistons. But,
I'm sorry to hear that. It was a 60 cycle gap. You had a lot of leeway.
Yep.
Alright, this is good. We haven't hit madness just yet, but the instruction count will continue to drop. At 96 instructions, we have Goodbye Galaxy.
Galaxy was someone in chat saying, people did a 4? So I'm expecting a 10.
Alright, so this is also a 10.
Trickle down economics. Oh my gosh.
Nice, keep the trig puns coming.
I love the waist stick that helps be a conveyor belt. This conveyor belt idea is the way you do it. And Madmaster had said something like, I predict that the best trig solve will have no waste. And I just don't believe them because conveyor belt is too powerful.
I actually don't know the answer to that question. So I'm having myself a big thump here.
Panic also mentions that Goodbye Galaxy spent time optimizing for cost on secondary for rate before realizing it was instructions.
Oh yeah, there was I was tempted to just show it for Lex C and Sasson because it was his best scoring Lex C solve. That like it was a rate solve and optimized for cost, but I decided to spare him.
Oh.
Sounds like I shouldn't have. Keep that in mind for next time.
I like the half of the time tin because it's bonded, which allows the piston at the bottom to pivot and either put a tin on the bonder or not.
Yeah, I do like this bonding thing that lets you just do a pivot and, you know, the pivot can just, yeah, let the chips fall where they may. And it'll work out because you're doing it half the time. I do enjoy the foray into stick tech though. Moving on. At 12th place, coming down to 91 instructions, we have Spiritual Shampoo. These layouts are so chaotic.
I mean, yeah, it's trackless, so you're going to have a lot of hex arms. You're going to have a lot of things moving where geometry makes it somewhat convenient, even if it's not actually convenient. Is that a waste stick getting built very slowly out on the right? It is.
It
nice.
is.
I guess that's the odd one out pipeline that handles tin and it gets an extra salt while it doesn't.
The odd one out with the tin here is pretty cool. Because, yeah, there's a very clear separation. There's the lower pipeline, which is just all your stabilized iron, and that gets projected the same way. And then you have the stabilized tin, and that gets the odd one out treatment, I guess. Not knowing what the best solves look like, I can see this odd one out thing having potential, though I can also see
this only works while it's period 10, I think. I don't think odd one out works while it's period 4.
Is this not a period 4 idea?
It's a really good period 10 idea. I mean, it's the best period 10 we've seen so far.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Alright. Moving on to 11th place. We drop down to 87 instructions with Fiesta Land. Still period 10. I think I can zoom in for this one.
Yeah, this is Fiesta Land. They thought that period 4 was going to be relevant, but they couldn't figure out a way to count to 5 optimally.
Relatable. Big fan of this bottom section with arm 7 and arm 4. There's a cheeky salt handoff, and that arm 4 will also output. And also a cool odd one out idea.
Yeah, having 2 projectors makes odd one out not require the same sort of grab avoidance. I noticed that in Spiritual Shampoos there was an arm that only existed to pivot something out of the way of the grab that would otherwise get rid of it. But in this one, you don't have to worry about that because there are 2 locations where the projectors go and it works out.
This is a super nice solve, honestly. Period 10 seems like an interesting space to be in, even if it's not optimal. Almost a shame. Almost. Not quite.
I embrace the madness. Period 4 is exactly what I want.
Depends on how you feel about the madness.
Zorflax, you know what my solution involves. It's your favorite 2 words.
Yeah. We're not there yet, though. We're still... Alright, moving to the top 10. We do take another drop in the instruction count down to 74 with Ebenov. We do have period 4. Might have to zoom out. Actually, I don't think I do.
So Ebenov was someone who seemed rather confident in Discord conversations. And they managed to get period 4 working, which is a good cause for confidence. Although they have some waste piston here. I see the piston at the bottom, which was helping with the issue of stuff ready too early.
Alright, so I like the separation of tin here. They get the odd one out tin by simply covering the purification glyph with salt.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. That's really pretty.
That's a really cool way to get your odd 10. And you can turn it back into an odd one out pipeline. You can see why Evanov was confident.
Yeah, that's basically Metal Chaos idea, but you're using salt.
But with salt. Salt chaos incoming.
Yeah, so the period 4 problem is how do you count? And 6 showed one of the ways, which was just build something that'll eventually bond. And this is the other way, by causing a steady state to involve blocking purification. Which I consider blocking purification to be the necessary feature of Metal Chaos.
Oh, yeah. It is interesting though, because this is like, it's Metal Chaos, but it's not quiet. And what I mean by not quiet is that it also, it's weird in its own way. The other kind of thing that this reminded me of outside of Metal Chaos was, it was Refined Gold RI, which I think is a solution. The record was one that was made by Panic, and it was surprisingly involved because it's Refined Gold. It's the first campaign puzzle. Stab Water being a tutorial, but yeah. And it was super involved and weird with the periods counting. But it was all projection. None of it was purification. None of it was strictly Metal Chaos. But there's a lot of like oh god, I've got Quicksilver and I need to like have I need to have wheel arms, just carry it around for a while. And yeah, it's a complicated but really cool and involved steady state.
Yeah, the wheel arms carrying the Quicksilver for projection is great in that it is guaranteed to never crash. But you might have it never use one of them in the loop, and so it will suppress the event again. So the wheel arms thing is great if you can get it to min rate, but it's also a way to fall into a trap where you're short of min rate. I think Panic found a bunch of layouts that were instead 12R instead of 10R or something.
It was like that. One thing I'm wondering though, this is an incredibly tiny nitpick, but why can't the output be there? I assume it's because of the fact that it's period 4. I don't think this actually affects anything whatsoever. I'm just curious. Right, so arm 20 will immediately regrab. That's the reason. That's fair. Alright.
Also, this is not going to have infinite area usage, which is nice.
No, yeah, it's... Well, technically it's not wasteless because it's like those two, because they come out too early. But other than that, it's wasteless. Well, not wasteless, but...
Yeah, exactly. My wording was intentional. It's never going to have infinite area.
Waste stickless, I guess I can say. So, with that in mind, who do we have in the top 3 for this metric?
I'm putting Team 42 up there. I'm not going to be subtle. I'm confident.
I might be up there. Depends on how fast the secondary got it.
Alright. This is another very difficult one to predict, just because the metric itself is so chaotic. These solves are making me wish I spent my time on this metric instead of Lex Cycles, but oh well. Coming in 9th place at 72 instructions is Witch Push. Not far enough apparently.
Another period 4. Beautiful. I think this might have been the switch flipped.
Alright, I got it all on the one screen eventually. Let me know if there
like a counting stick.
Let me know if there are visibility issues if I'm zoomed too far out for you guys.
I mean, I can't read arm numbers, but I can definitely see the process, which is the main important part.
Yeah, okay.
And this is the counting stick. There's the arm there that's purifying tin, but it breaks one off first, so that makes it easy to count.
It's stuff like this at in the top left corner. This projection here, it gives me refined gold RI vibes.
Yeah, that's exactly Panic's approach of just have a bunch of projectors, all the ones you need, and have 2 arms that never crash into that. Do you want to zoom in on that section just so that people see it?
Yeah, and then eventually, like, I like how it eventually, like, builds up Quicksilver because, you know, these are all gold, so they won't project until the next part of the stick comes on, and it does 4 projections in 2 cycles, or in 1 cycle.
Yeah, the challenge in this is often to make sure that you don't miss using any of them, and if there's any Quicksilver that follows the full route, you're screwed. But
Yeah.
the way that this one is stationed, it works perfectly.
Yeah, this has the advantage over the refined gold RI that you can control how much is coming in, so you kind of know what's going to happen. Whereas in refined gold, it's just like, yeah, it's just coming in as fast as it can, and you have to deal with it. So it is slightly different. I think there is a solution later on that actually uses the same exact gizmo as refined gold did. I think it might be Haxton's actually, but yeah, I think we'll see that later.
Alright, so one thing that's not actually too important, but is kind of funny. If I play this, wait for the stick to come out. Alright, So if I just let this run, right, on 19, it looks like all 4 projections happen at the same time. But if I tab through the cycles, 2 project and then 2 project later. But that's only if I tab through the cycles.
Tab is a betrayal, by the way. The 2 things that happen are on opposite sides of the same frame.
Oh, so, because it is the same cycle, it's just like on the different parts of the cycle, right? Is that what you mean?
I mean, it's before and after drop, but the drop is instantaneous when it's playing.
Yeah, just a little visual curiosity, I don't know. So that wasn't actually too important, but yeah. Alright. Coming down to 8th place, we take another instruction drop down to 62. We have Specs 98. Yeah, it is this one.
Five equals 6 minus 1 is a profound statement. I wonder how it manifests in this solution.
That sounded funny without context, by the way.
Interesting. It has all of its tin coming out. Oh yeah, I see. I see how it gets the tin. That's funny.
Yeah, this is a pattern I think a lot of sols have, where there's a hex arm that's moving something around, and then another arm adjacent to it that progresses it once every time around. So you get a 5 from that because it's 6, and then you move it forward 1 more. Or back, whatever you want to call it. So it's 6 minus 1.
Yeah, that's something you see in a lot of TI solves, actually. That, like, handoff that actually turns, like, a wheel arm's, 6 tape long loop into a 5 tape long loop.
And that allows the main pipeline to just make iron.
Yeah, exactly.
It's elegant.
God, I'm scared. These are so elegant, and we're, like, still in 8th place.
This one does have to get 2 coppers to stop existing.
It's actually kind of funny, because they, if I play it through, you can see the first copy here, and then it's the silver, and then you think it's a steady state, and it'll be like gold for a while. But I think this first one here, this copper, just comes out like way later. So you need like a final dummy. But then after that, it's good, because your second pipeline's ready now.
Yeah, ARM12 doesn't have the luxury of input suppressing because it actually is swinging twice, so it'll just crash right back into the input.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the issue with this one is just that the salt is on the complete other side of the solution from the gold that's coming out, so it has to spend a lot of instructions just moving salt around and getting it to the right place.
Yeah, and of course the salt conditional itself is a bit of an awkward challenge. Alright. Moving onwards. We go down to 7th place. At 58 instructions, Bambi. God, I never know how much to zoom out.
The name Big Stick Energy is powerful.
I thought you'd like that.
Interesting. I like this type of stick.
I do like how the stick gets refreshed perfectly.
That is really good. I like that.
Alright, I'm gonna start it again so that my computer doesn't cry. Alright, so I guess I'll just pose this question to you directly, Biggie. What makes the stick approach powerful?
The small number of instructions that can move things over infinitely many glyphs.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like encoding the instructions on the board instead, and you're progressing through the instructions by moving the stick forward. Maybe a way to think about it.
Yeah, it's like the paradigm of instructions no longer are allowed to represent complexity because you don't get very many of them. So the glyphs represent complexity, and you can put glyphs in only the most convenient places when you're using a brick to cover infinitely large space.
How long is one of those? Is it 10?
It is 10. It is 10 tin coming through on a train.
Right, yeah, because that's the amount that you need.
So like each individual train. Yeah, it's 10.
And is it like weird bonding ideas that allow it to skip the first 2 tin? I'm still trying to figure out how the stick gets exactly 2 tin not bonded, or not purified.
So I'm guessing it's these first two?
Yeah, the first 2 manage. Oh, they bond together. That's all it takes. You just bond them together, which is because they're at the end of that conveyor, so they will stay bonded together from that bonder placed just up from the hex arm.
They get bonded at this point here. So yeah, and they're the only 2 that will get that because arm 7 then grabs. That's super clever. it's quite subtle.
And it still seems to spend a lot of its effort on projection because when you have the conveyor, there are good outcomes for the projection loop, but this one seems to be not finding them. There's a lot of arms transporting partial products implicitly.
I do like this the tin excess here, how the projection is handled there, because yeah, all the metals seemingly turn to gold at just the right point. Because you got one tin that needs to be projected all the way, but then these others don't. And it kind of takes advantage of that by having that tin be the one that stays on the projector for a while. That's nicely coordinated. Alright, I'll run it through one more time, and next time my computer starts lagging, we will move on.
So Zorflax, I just realized about an entire stream too late. You have the Benefactor mod, right? We can just hack in some viscerators because we have disposal, so you can just eat the stick on the end.
Yeah, I use the viscerators for the 24 Ti Nightmare Fuel for 2026. Because it's so much nicer to be able to just not worry about your waste causing slowdowns.
Oh, you're certainly right. Oh. Thank you for that tip, Mr. Puzzle. That was actually...
I wish I realized that like 2 hours ago.
That's a super cool idea. I'm gonna try and use that regularly. Nice.
That's a 50 gold investigation.
Unfortunately, I kind of do have to move on because we've been staring at this one for a while. Alright. Coming up next is a host solve. Actually, someone would be 7th place, Haxton.
Yeah, I heard Panic mention Haxton's solve earlier, and I was like, Haxton isn't submitting to Weeklies. but host salt makes total sense.
Yeah, and you can see on the right, that's like
Yeah.
literally the RI salt for...
Yeah, and this counts to 5 with a ring of bonders and a conditional grab, which is perfect.
I was waiting for this one to show up. That ring of 5 is how I counted to 5. So I was wondering if it would show
I look at stuff like this with the Quicksilver, and I do wonder if there's like how chaotic can you make that? Because we have Metal Chaos and Purification, but is this the route to projection chaos?
I mean, yeah, it's just if you don't have a consistent things going in, it's kind of chaotic whether or not it'll work.
It's a damn shame the TI record for refined gold is 3. You know, from what I remember, Haxton kind of made this and went, "Oh yeah, no, that was pretty cool. I like that challenge. That doesn't seem too painful."
I do like the conditional work of the tri-arm on the left, because if there's gold there, it's supposed to.
Yeah, if there's gold there, it'll output. If there's not, it just disposes. That's an elegant conditional. Because, yeah, we were talking about salt conditionals earlier when, yeah, because the issue came up on Spec 98 salt, because the salt conditionals seem very involved, but this is a super elegant way to solve that problem. But yeah, this is certainly wasteless. Well, not wasteless, but waste stickless.
Also fully wasteless, it's just disposing, because obviously.
Yeah.
I do feel like the instruction overhead of the bond conditional is high.
Right. This bit where it like debonds stuff. Yeah.
It isn't like terribly high, but it isn't as low as it gets.
That's something worth keeping in mind as we move on. Yeah. Also, the host solve for both metrics would have come in 7th, so nice coincidence there. Not that it actually adds anything. Alright, moving on to 6th place though. We drop down to 52. It is Mr. Puzzle.
Rat.
Okay, yeah, my stick-based one was 55, so we just leapfrogged over my first solve.
How was your trick?
Later.
Yep.
How'd you go with
So,
trick, Mr. Puzzle?
Calculated rate. Then I think I decided that 4 loop was what I want for instructions. So then I was like, well, the only way to count to 5 is a 10 ring, right? So then I was like, we'll do that, and then what do I do with the salt? And then I was like, conveyor. Let's do that. Then I brute forced my way to the finish. And a lot of arm shuffling too. But
I'm a fan of ARM 10. Sorry, it's ARM 11. You probably can't see which one ARM 11 is. This one here that bonds the iron onto the stick, but it also shuffles stuff along.
that's a fun one.
Yeah, because you need to have a grab there anyway, and that grab will cause problems if it doesn't debond.
Yeah, I like how ARM 9 is able to solve the geometry problem with that C shape. Because the previous solution, I feel like it used... Well, I guess it's still breaking it apart. It would have been nicer if it were able to move the full, like, 5 C-shape along. Never mind. Yeah, I thought it was moving the full 5 shape along.
Well, it's kind of nice because the Arm 7 here that debonds also slaps the tin onto the conveyor.
Oh yeah, that is true. And also, both of those arms are hex arms, where they were just like normal arms in the other one that had to reset.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It does seem like it saves instructions.
The arms I wish I could get rid of are either of 8 or 9 and 12. I feel like I had to have an extra arm to shuffle the tin around right, and I wish I could have done the Quicksilver with just 2 hex arms, but I couldn't manage.
Yeah, I guess it's a touch unfortunate that Arm 8 it's just there for a handoff to help with the geometry problem. Other than that, this was well trigged. Alright, we move on to top 5 territory. We do dip below 50 instructions. At 49 sits Madmaster.
Madmaster was very confident in wasteless solves. Oh my goodness, what are all these calcifiers? Why are you doing this?
Tertiary flex.
Alright, I can see where this salt stick is going, so I'm gonna preemptively whack that right there. And now we'll play it. Actually, I could be wrong about that, Eviscerator.
Oh, I think you need a second one.
I'm gonna get rid of it, actually.
You need a second one.
I actually don't need it. Alright.
Oh.
That is not a very involved that's not, the projection looks quite simple here.
Yeah, and this one makes the C shape and then sticks it on the stick and debonds it that way. And then uses the hex arm to grab both pieces. Very nice.
That projection is very slick.
Oh, it's also 420 area. That's kind of funny.
Nice.
That giant stick is calibrated.
Also, people, I do remember a few people talking about weird Critelis for the trig metric, but I've been so zoomed out that it hasn't really been much of a factor for most of these.
When Night Solve comes up, I will point you to the grid tally.
Thank you, thank you.
Its first output drops on 69 and it has 420 area. Okay, Madmaster, you got some swag.
That's worth bonus points. I'm gonna award that bonus points.
It gets 4.2 place instead of 5.
It does. In 4.2nd place, Madmaster.
Goodbye Galaxy, the leftmost arm handling Quicksilver can't be a hex arm, because otherwise it'll grab the Quicksilver and put out of the way, and then it'll eventually bonk that bigger hex arm.
It's because of the, kind of unique-ish way that this, So yeah, here it's already grabbed, so you can see it on the very first projection. So here, it grabs, it puts a Quicksilver there. It's already grabbed, so that would just, if that was a hex arm, that wouldn't project, and that would screw up everything.
Oh yeah, because it needs to project multiple times on Magnum sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's kind of how it gets away with the slick projection, by like delaying the projection a couple cycles and having arm 14 not be a wheel arm. This is super nice though. I'm not even sure where to nitpick. Maybe the bottom section, maybe?
I mean, it's just kind of arm counting at this point. If you're all your arms have either 3 or 4 or maybe 2 instructions, then more arms the merrier, but it's also going to cost you instructions.
Yeah, that's probably as good as measure as any. Alright, moving in down to 4th place. We take an instruction drop down to 43 with Team Gamora Fainaco Condadiri Thingamabob.
Wow. Drop.
Dare I zoom in even further? I can.
Yeah, this one is bonding, and that's actually so elegant and clean. I'm rethinking whether my approach was even any good. Now that I see arms 6, 5, 7, and probably the tri-arm in the middle 8.
Yeah, that's 8.
That's a really quick way of getting 3 atoms.
That tri-arm is really nice.
Yeah, it's only counting to 2 rather than 5, which I guess is a lot easier.
Fiesta mentions that this is an approach that Fiesta Lang was trying and failed with.
That's super slick to get that Tintin iron.
But yeah, the tin wand, once you have 2 iron, this is the same as what 6 used, but 6 had it on a piston, and this one uses rotations, which is pretty slick.
It's kind of funny how we've been taking the projection for granted, even though these are all like perfectly coordinated such that the input is never suppressed.
You can save one instruction on the solution, by the way.
Sorry?
You can save one instruction on the solution. Replace the piston next to the hex arm that outputs with a small hex arm rotating the opposite direction.
Oh, I know what you mean.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because that requires that there's an atom in every grounder. Never mind.
Yep.
Mr. Puzzle was on top of it. I was wrong.
Yep. That is a issue I ran in with my solve. And I was like, wait a minute, why can't I just shut? Yeah, it had the same idea, ran into the same problem.
It's a motif that I really recognize as like, oh yeah, this is
I
something
don't know,
you
it doesn't look like... Oh, okay, that's what you meant. That sucks.
Gaps ruin that, and the piston solves the gap problem, costing 1 instruction. Well, my confidence has dropped quite a bit given how impressive these solutions are. I am up next, I'm almost certain.
Yeah, this is super nice algorithm here with arms 6, 7, 8, 9. Huge props. We will move on, and Biggie is correct in 3rd place at 42. Team 42.
Yeah, I was prouder of this one, but the Lexi cycles scored better. 2nd versus 3rd. But yeah, 42 I.
Classic competitive Opus Magnum issues. Alright, so this is what Biggie meant with that piston waste thing, and I'm going to go ahead and throw an eviscerator there. Stop that from killing my computer.
So the entire premise of this one is that Metal Chaos can cause you to get 2 iron for every tin. But you kind of have to set it up into a correct steady state, which requires 2 adjustments made by one-use pistons. My Critelli is under the grab point of those one-use pistons.
Oh, so it's on that tin that's just not moving.
Yeah, exactly. 2 pistons hug a tin forever on the Critelli.
Yeah, this purification method is this is genuinely mad.
So it suppresses the purifier, bonds the tin afterwards, uses the tin to connect 2 iron to the waste stick, and then conveyors them around to get them to all become gold.
That's, you know what, that was a lot like what Ebenov was doing, except with the iron blocking instead of the salt.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that actually, yeah.
And if you remove either of the pistons, you get a chaotic list of tins and irons out instead of this nice cadence of 5. Like, all the bonders around the iron arm and the 2 pistons are required to get it to come out exactly like it's coming out.
I'd almost play that out, but I'm pretty sure that's just gonna like make things crash very quickly.
Yeah, unfortunately, it crashes too quickly because of where the length 2 hex arm that transports things is. Like, if you remove the entire right part of the solution, you get to see a beautiful bit of chaos, but I don't think that's worth on stream.
Also, your projection is also one of the more jank projections.
Yep. I was happy with that, especially because the tin got some extra quicksilver before it even got back on the stage. I hoped that I could get it in only 2 arms, and I did. I think you can probably take 6 instructions off of this, but I stopped trying to once I found them.
To be fair, it is very satisfying that Team 42 finally got a score of 42. Could have had it on both metrics. That would have been very big.
No, I didn't think that I couldn't. I didn't think I could have submitted a 42 Lexi given that I had a 41, but it was irrelevant to standings.
Yeah, having a 42 on both metrics would have been very biggie pog, but alas. Alright. We do have 2 more names to read out. The first one, at 37 instructions. John.
Amazing debut.
Yeah, how's that for a debut? And that is compact.
He had 42 at a previous point and improved it. Nice.
He did improve it quite a bit though. And Team 42 came through this time, so it worked out. We won't blame you.
There's also a one-use piston in this one. That's hilarious.
Check out arm 10 and 2 with the lead.
Yeah, that's the thing that I pointed out in an earlier solution, I don't remember which one, but where you have 2 arms and one of them progresses the other by 1 each time around.
I think that was spec'd with the 5 minus 6, or 6 minus 1 equals 5.
Yeah.
And that'll pull every 5th tint. That is super cool. I do also like how arm 5 and 6 are just allowed to build up like completely full backlog of Quicksilver.
Yeah, if you're pushing slower, it works out perfectly. The salt that I had titled Anometry does exactly that. Still might look at it in Showcase because nothing's doing exactly what it's doing, unless Chalioresis is doing it.
I love so much about this. This arm 7, arm 3, 210. Oh, this is great.
Yeah, geometrically, this is just solving all of the problems using Spec's idea, or the idea that we saw Spec have. It's obviously not like we borrowed this idea from Spec because independent, but
this is like
such a clever finish for that.
This
idea.
shows the potential of Spec's idea. I hate to even suggest where you would be able to save instructions.
I feel like the only thing would be like maybe the piston, because it has to return. You could do something different there.
Or maybe
But
the other
so
piston. Maybe there's a way to handle that conditionally that doesn't need a brand new one. Maybe.
The only single-use work you can make is when a piston works, because all the other arms will eventually get in the way again.
Mhm.
So the single-use piston is already doing everything it needs to do, but the piston that retracts is possibly inefficient, but I wouldn't even say it is.
Right.
This is an amazing solve. Well done, John. However, we do have one more, and as Biggie mentioned, it is Calioresis at 34 instructions.
That's lower than I even thought could be done. I guess that you could take 6 from mine. 36 would have been that, but that's impressive. Calioresis is TI as a skill makes you a very terrifying tournament.
This is what TI does to an alchemist.
So yeah, this is using the arm that feeds the tin into the purifier to advance the iron along the wheel to get that 5.
Oh.
And it's also, well, yeah, it uses my favorite part of this solve is the little ring where it does the projection.
I really
around arm
I'm just
four.
looking at.
God, this is beautiful.
I'm looking at the bottom here, and like, because we saw with John's, it was arm 2 and 10 who were both like doing the handoff, but here the handoff is handled by one of the arms that's handling the purification anyway. And arm 5 grabs it, and it won't be a problem because, yeah, that it's still yet to the purification glyph's still yet to activate.
Yeah, this has just it manages to do more things with the same arms, which is the TI dream of like, yeah, we have all these tasks, but they're hex arms, so you can put one task on the left and one task on the right, and there are so many cases of that here. The arm
And yeah,
that
also
in the ring is so
Yeah, also the way the Quicksilver is being carried by the same arm that brings the gold off onto that top hex arm.
Yeah, you can see arm 10 here. That is super nice.
Yeah, arm 11. It's funny too, you can actually rotate the whole left side of the solve and get rid of arm 11, and it almost works, but there are 2 arms trying to move at the same time. I
Wow.
was looking at this before the stream.
It does actually, it's surprising how similar this is to John's approach.
Yeah, the whole idea of counting to 5 as 6 minus 1 is the most powerful way. Metal Chaos was a fun quirk, but this is the most powerful way.
One day I'll come up with a puzzle where Metal Chaos is the most powerful idea. That'll be a hell of a week. Oh, this is super nice. This is super nice to watch. Honestly, all of these top solves have just been incredibly satisfying to watch.
Trig is an incredible metric because it's like TI, but you're forced to do more things more quickly, so your solves get a little more complex. So it's like complex TI despite simple puzzles.
Right, yeah, because plain TI is just 3i, and then it turns into this madness when you add the rate restriction.
Yeah, honestly, these are both super innovative metric ideas. Well done on Grimmy, because this is like otherwise a very basic puzzle, but the metrics are super well considered.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have lexicographic cycles now too. Just like looking at the different, just putting in, I remember when I was setting it up, just putting in tons of different solves and just seeing what numbers come out is really fun. So I don't know if it's possible to add to the leaderboard bot or not, but it's a fun metric in general.
I'm also looking forward to seeing future trig stuff, whether it's leaderboard or like another weekly or a tournament thing. Yeah. As I mentioned, I didn't look at trig very much at all throughout the week, so I was focused on like cycles, but these solves are making me want to look at trig. This is really cool.
Yeah, I think RI in general is kind of an underappreciated category. Like,
Yeah.
it hasn't been as optimized as like RG or other categories. So even with the possibility of track, it's kind of a cool thing, I think.
Nah, yeah, I agree with that. I know there was, because we've been doing quite a few rate puzzles in this Weeklies batch this year, but there were calls to do an RI secondary, because we kept doing RG, but RI is like, it on the right puzzle, it's at least as interesting as RG.
Yeah. I think you're right though that the puzzle does matter. Like some puzzles, it just turns into, oh, it's rate, but everything's a hex arm, and it just looks like this huge mess. But on the puzzles where there are cool tricks, it does get pretty cool, I think.
All right. With that, I guess it's time to do next week's puzzle reveal.
Next week is week 11, right? I think you called this week 11, but the site calls it week 10.
Yeah, sorry, this week is week 11. So yeah, I called it week 11, it's actually week 10. So that was my bad. Alright. We enter the realm of production.
Hell yeah.
Alright, the
Another
puzzle...
production puzzle.
The puzzle is Brazing Cathode. This was one that was put together by me. Your metrics are... The first metric is VI, so Vintage Instructions. So, for those who haven't done Vintage Instructions before, it means if you use any of those instructions, I guess also like these, I guess are free. Anything else will add to your VI count. So these are your free instructions. So if you make a solution with only these, you'll get a perfect score of 0. Anything else will add to your primary.
And to answer this question ahead of time, repeats and resets are evaluated as what they would turn.
Right. So if I did an arm like this, I don't use reset instructions. So if I did something like this, so I've only used the one extend, but that would actually that would become 4 because the reset will expand out to 1 and the repeat will expand out to 2. But if I did that, it will expand out, and there are no non-VI instructions, so that would still count as 0. As much as I would like to punish the use of reset for just for the memes, I'm not going to do that. I don't think anyone else in the weeklies would stand for something like that. The other metric is cycles. It's also worth pointing out for VI, the secondary for VI is normal instructions. So that's the secondary is your total instruction count.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And for cycles, I think the secondary is cost. Yes, it is. Alright, and I will make that public. So... Alright, so the puzzle's now live. You can go to the Events Criteria page and try that if you want. Other than that, we will be looking at showcase solves. Of which I think we have quite a few because, as mentioned, if outside of the given metrics, this was a pretty easy puzzle.
I would like to selfishly request that Onometry gets a showcase display as well.
What does?
My earlier for loop trig solve called Onometry.
Onometry. I can do that.
I would also like to request that my two solves involving overlap lexicographical cycles should be shown in the order that would make sense. You should know what I mean by that.
So, the naive one first?
Yes.
Alright. Sorry, I'm just manually downloading Biggie's one so I can showcase it.
Because it does count in a slightly different way than any of the solutions that were shown.
Oh, Alright, well, Goodbye Galaxy's showcase popped up, but that'll be later. We'll have a look at Biggie's first. So, Onometry says this is the one with more metal chaos, is it?
No, this is a stick counter. So I made two ways of getting a for loop to work. And this one is doing it by creating a 10-atom salt ring, breaking off 3 of those atoms, and then making a waste chain that curves around the solution.
Wow. Wow, that does really curve around, oh.
That's kind of the only thing that sets it apart from the other solutions, is that it gets 7 atoms into a C, and then it like makes that wild shape that I think the area profile over time is also funny.
Yeah, if I let this play out a couple more times. You see how jagged it is?
It's like not even consistent across.
Exactly. It's depending on the distance, some hexes wouldn't get covered.
It's amazing.
But the rest of it is very simple, but it does have extra arms to do work, so it's 55 instructions, which wasn't... I think that was top 7, but not top 5.
Oh, you're right. The hex usage just changes over time. That's so cursed.
Anyway, rip your poor computer. This is just another trig solve that was on a for loop, but since it was so different from the one I submitted, I thought I might want to get it shown.
I like how my computer is like perfectly fine until it has to calculate the 2 swings, and then it's like, ugh!
Da 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 da.
The inconsistent challenge of simulating a Biggie solve.
Biggie moment. Alright. That was weird area usage. Goodbye Galaxy with a why did I make this? Why does it cost 4,000 G? Oh, that's why.
Whoa.
Wow.
I don't understand. Why did you make this?
It looks really cool, though.
You know,
I've
now
seen
that you
this in
mention
Not
it-
Great's thing, but not in the flesh, so I'm interested.
The different gizmos doing their thing.
What the hell?
I love it.
That's never gonna actually project. The projectors are just there.
This reminds me of the Steven solution to refined gold that was called Maximum Vibe.
Yo! Also, best Critelli. Oh my god. Rube Goldberg machine glibs.
This is the engine I want in my Opus Magnum vehicle.
May not like it, but this is peak performance.
Oh, that is so incredibly whack.
I love how the arms that are on 6 cycle loops that are all rotating the entire time in the top left, top right, and bottom left. I love how those look. It's just that very satisfying spinny woozy feeling.
I don't know why, but that bottom left one is particularly entrancing for me. It's like the grabber prongs are converging in this weird way that makes it look like they're not converging at the same time, even though they are. That could just be me talking there.
Yeah, and like the shape they make when they all cross over each other is something you don't see very often in this game, I guess.
Okay, Steven would be very proud of you for this, even though you have pistons pistoning. That's absolutely incredible. Thank you for that, Goodbye Galaxy. Oh, that was awesome. Alright, next up we have Mr. Puzzle. Tessellation Throughput.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even consider trying to build a TT solve. That's amazing. I hope it isn't just projection.
I might do
It
that
is
if
just
that's okay.
but it's still really cool.
Well, so the thing is like, if you stick with only projection, you save so much on Ingria, and you don't need to use as much ARM logic.
I'll zoom in for maximum kaleidoscope.
Oh no, wait, you don't need any. I get you.
Yeah, so there's one gold output, and then everything else is disposals.
Right, so essentially pretend the disposals are outputs, and you get tessellation throughput stuff.
Yep. So,
The shared pivots are really cool.
Wow,
we're
yeah.
looking at a 2x2. There are 4 cells that are shown in a 2x2 grid. A single cell has 20 area. It takes 20 cycles to make 4 outputs per cell. So throughput 100. Tessellation. But yeah.
One day, we'll have, like, official tessellation throughput. It'll be like a proper weekly or tournament puzzle. That'll be great. Well, I mean...
And it'll be supported in a way that makes it easy for someone to understand, which I don't think we have yet.
Yeah, that's probably the main thing stopping us from doing something like this at the moment.
Yeah, only thing I can think of would be a mod where you can be like, I want 10 copies of everything, and then there's like a up or down arrow corner or something, and you'd be like, I want 100 copies or something. Proper wrapping around.
So I think the way that the mod would have to work would allow you to do exactly what you just said, and then also allow you to trace an area in the plane and calculate the tessellation throughput. Oh, but then you still have to have arms that are in one side and do the thing on the other. Yeah.
Right, and that's like pulling Portal the game shenanigans of we're simulating this arm in 2 spots at the same time. Would be a fantastic programming challenge for those of you still in university and are looking for a computer science project.
We'd also need a no wang tiling rule, which is something I did not know about until this week.
I think in practice you can just say there's a pattern that repeats, with some offset, like in X and Y, and that'll probably cover everything you really need. Like, the aperiodic stuff is probably not going to be optimal.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you probably might not need it to be a rule anyway, just because it did need to be aperiodic. Alright. This is really cool. Getting some love for tessellation throughput. Moving on, we have a showcase by Jason. Yeah, no, I don't want this.
Oh, this was. I think he had said something earlier where he had a lexicographical cycles attempt that reused some of the iron that was waste in its true attempt.
Like the...
but
Oh,
it
I see.
didn't prove it.
Right, so he was using some of the iron, yeah, because he had that iron waste stick.
Yeah, it's even actually technically better than the Lexi of the submission, but he didn't want it to count, so he stick the showcase box.
That's fair enough, yeah. Because, like, it's technically better, but it's also much more blah. Yeah, understandable. From memory, it wouldn't have improved placement or anything.
Yeah, I mean, we never had something that was improved only after the 15th output, and that's what this is.
That would have been whack. Alright. Next up, another one from Mr. Puzzle. Pretty sure it's OR.
Is this the correct order, Mr. Puzzle?
I think it's O. What?
It is
So
double.
this
Sorry.
output every 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So this is 2R.
Yeah, it's double proccing every cycle. I'd be comfortable calling this OR.
The only way it wouldn't be OR is if you were able to double proc the lead into purification, but
Yeah, it seemed.
there's not a way to do that. There's no lead in the output.
No, yeah, no lead in the output.
I'm impressed that OR is actually a rather reasonable number. I've worked with too many hell ratios, like 13 per 58, when you start to take a puzzle and put it on OR.
Surprisingly not cursed. It's still kind of cursed, but surprisingly not that cursed.
It worked out really nice. It's like I can get a lead every cycle, I can burn up 2 quicksilver every cycle, I can purify 2 lead every 2 cycles. Really nice ratios.
Alright, next up is Goodbye Galaxy's RG solve, which he did actually submit as showcase.
Nice.
Oh, this is real cheap.
Yeah, 330 is not expensive at all. ARM 7's very nice.
What's the trig on this? Because it's trackless too.
Don't have an instruction count at the ready.
Probably 200, because there's 10 arms and there's 20 instructions per arm. Oh, there's some gaps. It's also 11 arms, so it's like, okay, 168 he says in chat.
Oh, 200 instructions. There we go.
It is 200. Okay, my guess was better than his memory. But it's gorgeously cheap. This is like right up Goodbye Galaxy's alley.
I imagine Goodbye Galaxy might have been almost disappointed to hear it was an instruction secondary. This is super cool though. Alright, next up, I think I'm gonna save that one. This one is from Mr. Puzzle, it is width. This is definitely one of the width solves of all time.
It really looks like another puzzle. Is that just reactive? No, not reactive gold. That one's actually non-trivial. I'm trying to think of what puzzle it looks like. It might be refined gold. I don't remember, but I thought that one gets to get away with
With a trivial.
on the output.
Possibly. I can't say I'm too familiar with the rabbit hole that is width tech, but yeah. Funnily enough, this was not the only width solve submitted. Calliuresis submitted one that was exactly one cycle quicker. Hate to do it to you, Mr. Puzzle, but yeah.
It's... You get bested. Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, the delivery's improved.
Yeah, it was just the one latency, I think. Alright, next up, we have a sum solve from Mr. Puzzle. 162, that seems... okay. It's just refined gold, huh?
Yeah, this is basically username Void's initial solve, but with more area-conscious movement.
Alright. Moving on, we do have the TI solve submitted by Rubik's. It's just 3 instructions. Nothing fancy here.
Well, you can improve this on secondary, if you count area as a secondary, but just rotating them.
Do that. I remember one time I was, it's the workshop puzzle Rust. Oh wait, I need to rotate the output itself. But, I was doing the workshop puzzle Rust to Silvered Mirror, which is one of the more popular puzzles. It's also quite a good puzzle. And I was playing around with TI, and I was like trying to get 6 and 5, and like I spent like maybe like 45 minutes to an hour trying to like figure something out in 5i or 4i. And I'm like, wait a second, can't I just grab, rotate, drop? And it worked exactly like this works. Felt like a bit of an arse, but yeah. That was very amusing. The idea basically, whenever it uses a Quicksilver, the Quicksilver will respawn, and whenever it drops a stabilized gold, that is what will trigger the respawning of a stabilized lead, so it's perfectly steady.
Yeah, it just works.
It just works. Alright, next up is a solve by random guest, Overlap.
Good, someone did overlap height.
Nice.
Also known as the 15 cycle 5/2 star solve. Or no, it's 2/5 star. That's even weirder.
It's not overlap width though. for what it's worth. And Mr. Puzzle has something similar. In fact, it might be the exact same. No, it's better width.
Yeah.
You see, also mention in your solution name this being naive Olex.
Yep. Because you can do a little bit better. And you can do a lot better than the better I did. But I feel like putting in the effort.
Right, so for this one, drops on 3, 5,
Right.
8, 10. So it's a 3-2 loop.
Yeah, because it'll do 2 every 5, and
It's a 3-2 in brackets.
yeah. So if you wanted to do half cycles, it would be 2.5, 2.5. But so the idea here is that if you were to use no overlap tricks except for the projector, you would notice that you are dropping an output every 2.5, but you can grab lead every 2. So at the beginning, you need to burn Quicksilver as quickly as possible, because you got to get the first output on 3, which basically means you need to be quick. You need to be projecting as soon as possible, and you need to be projecting all of the time. But if you're really careful, you can shuffle things out of the way and then get just a big enough time window that you can yank an extra stabilized lead, and now you can wand. So it's easier to get more out in between.
But
Right.
I'm confused. Oh, I guess you just have to have a higher priority projector, so that your Quicksilver is still useful. Gotcha.
So you want the output to not be on the input, and then the projector on the output takes priority.
Right, so I guess that segues into the final showcase solve, which is your slightly better Olex, just to demonstrate the idea, I think.
Yep. And this will do 9 outputs every 22 cycles, which is better than 9 outputs every 22.5. So it eventually gets ahead. It should anyway.
Yeah, it does right there. It goes 3-2-2 instead of 3-2-3. Does it have a much more complicated C score? It'd be like 3-2-3-2-3-2-3-2-2 or something. That's
Big brain.
Yeah, that seems like a very big brain metric. I even hate to think how to get that down to theoretical. I mean, that could be extremely ugly.
It's a lot of special casing and a lot of work, I think, and I didn't want to do it. But it was an interesting challenge of oh man, you gotta burn up that Quicksilver all the time, and you gotta drop it on the 3, you gotta drop it on the 5, you gotta drop it on the 8. That's really hard. But and then you look at it and you're but if I time it just right, I can squeeze out that first extra input, and then it makes everything else so much easier. Because you have to grab it off. So you need 2 cycles of extra time. But then once you have ones, you can get it off with just one. I found it very fascinating when I was
I'm still a little mind blown by it.
I think it's super cool. Yeah, no, that seems like, I don't know. It's kind of like OR, where it's a deep forest of tech that is very unexplored, but also very technically demanding, because you need to have a strong grasp of overlap, which I personally do not. Alright. That was our final showcase solve, though. That just about wraps things up. So, how'd we go? 3 hours 20. It's fairly long. We got a really good stream. Thank you all for... Sorry?
There was a lot to talk about with these.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Thank you all for joining in on the stream. And once more, thank you to my fellow commentators. You people in the chat, if you feel like commentating, you are welcome to join in on the Opus on the Zachtronics Discord voice chat, and if you want to talk about your soul, or you feel like you have something valuable to add, you're more than welcome to tag along and commentate along. And yeah, I'll call it there. Thank you for joining. I'll hopefully see you all next week.
Thank you, and see you then.
See you next time. Production.